All right, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another live stream. Could be, possibly, maybe. Let's see. So, I've got a good one for you guys tonight. We have kind of been going through with the stream some different religions as of late. For Christmas time, we did Christianity, so we did a nice focus stream on that. Gave a lot of thoughts on Christianity, went through the background of Jesus, historicity of Jesus, and the Christian religion. I'm reading a book right now which is pretty cool. It's called Caesar's Messiah, which I mentioned in that stream by Joseph Atwill. So this one's pretty cool. So we did that, and I decided that why don't we do like a series, and so in this episode tonight, we're going to focus on atheism, which I would classify as a mind weapon. So we're going to go into atheism, going to give some thoughts on kind of the development of atheism, the institutionalization of atheism, its popularity, how we got to this point. To where you have, I'm not sure the statistics, but, if you go through the educational system, if you go through, regular UNESCO schooling, if you go higher education, you go to like a university or a college. If you take any psychology courses, they start you off like first semester is Freud, which is like, biological determinism of the mind. So we'll get into a lot of kind of maybe the key players, where this came from, the people involved with mainstreaming atheism, considering that a couple hundred years ago, if you go back to even early 1900, maybe before the second, like around First World War time, before the First World War, and then definitely after the Second World War, you definitely see this kind of go to the mainstream. But before that, atheism is something that I wouldn't say it was non-existent, but it was definitely not as popular as it is now. That's for sure. So thanks for joining. We got Mass Ninja, we got Marco. What's up, Marco? We got San Andreas. We got Jay. How you doing, Jay? We got Crofcom Esports, we got Dory Nichols, and we got KDE Gray. So just going to make sure I got everything set for the video with you guys here, and we'll go through a rundown. I'll give you guys my take on atheism, the people involved with kind of making it, even up until right now, like my cousin, distant cousin, however many times removed, Sam Harris, who is... that's pretty much his career is atheism, basically. I would classify him as atheist propagandist. Same with someone like, you've got Dawkins, right? Which I did have his book. I think I've said before in a stream that I recycled his book. He wrote the God Delusion, silver cover book. I went ahead, I recycled it. So... we'll go through that, but this is something that is always sort of topic online in what's called the maybe the intellectual dark web, right, on the internet. So this is something that it probably wouldn't just have come about naturally by itself. This is something that you have particular people where it's part of their career to talk up atheism, to provide atheism arguments online, and there isn't that much pushback as far as that goes. It's kind of almost full through. You have some of the biggest podcasts in the world. Take, for example, Joe Rogan Experience, where it's got the eyes or whatever. There was the DeFranco, too, the DeFranco kid. He was doing the stupid monkey, right, thing like that. So this is Darwinism. That's what this is. A stupid monkey, that whole thing, eye of illumination, all this kind of stuff. So we'll go through all of this. We'll kind of unpack it, and I'll give you my thoughts on kind of the background of this. So welcome there, Harold. How you doing? And we'll go ahead and take a look. So atheism, as a mind weapon. So basically, here's what I'm going to propose to you in this video. I'm going to propose to you that modern day atheism actually has a political objective, okay, that it is to get across to people. And this is being changed also, as I mentioned in previous streams. The atheism, kind of understanding is sort of being moved in the world towards Gaia worship, or the worship of Earth and the green stuff, terra carta, all this stuff. So I don't want to say, like, right now with kind of the atheistic, Darwinistic mindset that, is being purported. That's in flux too. Right now, that seems to be the objective as far as for political, worldwide political purposes, to have atheism as kind of the key understanding of everybody. But it is being sort of, molded or adjusted into the green stuff. So it's kind of has this transition. It's almost in a transitionary type of state right now, going from kind of where it's been, merging into like a Gaia Earth worship type of religion almost. Now, in terms of religion and belief, there's a lot of things that this affects. So whatever religion, if somebody is, for example, a Earth worshiper or a green person who's really a hardcore green person, they obviously will be more likely to recycle. They will, they may ride their bike to work, or they may do things like this that are completely different than somebody that is not, or somebody that's more selfish, maybe adversarial, like satanic adversarial, has Satan as adversarialism. So the green stuff is like, it's starting to become more mainstream. By 2030, definitely, where they want to kind of move people off of vehicle usage. They want to move people off of, well, not vehicle usage, but move them off of fossil fuels and move them towards like battery. You got the Teslas, you got all that stuff being promoted with all the green stuff. So religion is something that's very important, not just for how you think at kind of a deeper level, but it's also very important with your day-to-day decisions and how it informs the way you live your life, how you make choices to buy maybe a truck or to buy, something that would be more green, like let's say one of the new, battery-powered, battery-charged vehicles, let's say. So there's so many things that are packaged up in a mindset, right? Take, for example, a suicide. We'll go into this with mind weapons, right? People that, which is always unfortunate, it's always a tragedy when somebody decides to opt out. They become so demoralized that they opt out, right? And I would say that this atheism has a lot to do with that. Suicide is not something that I want to say for most of the mainstream religions has ever been acceptable for that, but atheism kind of allows it, right? Atheism isn't really against somebody deciding to opt out if they want to. Most people would think of atheism as a lack of religion, or a denial, a rejection of any kind of intelligent design or higher power or meaning in that way, as far as providential life is concerned. So your meaning and how you view yourself. So atheism it affects so many other things with how you view yourself, how you view life, how you view others, how you treat others. If you think, if you look at the world wars, right, and these giant World War II and the Soviet Union, these giant, human blood sacrifices, pretty much, where you have just people throwing each other into the firing line, governments throwing people into the firing line to obliterate each other, right? I would say this is very atheistic in terms of, it's satanic too because of adversarialism between countries, but it's very atheistic, or of kind of an atheistic type of mindset, which is that, well, people don't really have anything important about them. There's nothing really special. They don't have a spirit. They don't have a soul. If you listen to some Yuval Noah Harari's talks, this is the main kind of mindset that he has and that he's kind of purporting. That's over, right? Like the idea that God is over, or the Nietzsche God is dead type of thing, and human beings acquiring godlike power to be able to have, I don't know, artificial wombs, or to be able to produce people at will, to be able to maybe do eugenics and design people, right? So there's so many other things that this is underneath of, right? The idea of like human beings just being, grade 8 family, the Darwinism stuff, which we'll get into, and I'll give you my take on it. But the reason why it's important is because it informs so many other things about your behavior, right? If you are a devoted atheist, and you really are just, reject any idea of intelligent design whatsoever, or a soul, or a spirit, or any kind of providence, if you completely reject all of that, the way you live your life will probably be entirely different than someone who doesn't, right? Would you want to have kids? Is that something that interests you? If you're more nihilistic or you're more atheistic, I would think that you're probably less likely to want to have kids, because your viewpoint of what human beings actually are to begin with is you classify them as a type of animal, or you classify them as a type of stupid monkey or whatever. Why bother to have kids if you're just producing more of this stupid monkey? And then in terms of the green stuff, which will use all these resources throughout your lifespan, or your children's lifespan, to which is going to harm the planet in terms of the Gaia Earth Worship stuff. So atheism, and then we'll go into mind weapons, different types of mind weapons. Nietzsche, nihilism, Darwinism, Big Bang, all this kind of stuff. So we'll go through it. We'll go through these ones here. I'll give you my take on all of them and what atheism is. So disbelief, basically, or lack of belief that we live in a created or designed system or designed reality, right? So atheism in the broadest sense is an absence of belief in the existence of any deities, right, or any creator, right, or creators. Less broadly, atheism is a rejection of the belief that any deities exist. In an even narrower sense, atheism is specifically the position that there are no deities. Atheism is contrasted with theism, which in its most general form is the belief that at least one deity exists. But what is, even though atheism is a rejection of that, it usually is an acceptance of things like Big Bang, acceptance of Darwinism, acceptance of chance, right? And we'll get into that, because in order to, so if you look at gods, or an idea of understanding of what gods are, what they could be, it's sort of like a way that we can attribute things that are difficult for us to understand to a being of some kind. So when we look at our reality and we see how it's designed and everything that's included in it, it's pretty difficult to look at it and say that this could all come about just by random happenstance. The current atheistic background or backstory for atheism is your Hawking stuff. So your Big Bang stuff to start with, 13.8 billion years ago. You've got kind of this story that I would say they just made it up, really. I mean, how could you ever derive what could have happened over 13 billion, almost 14 billion years ago? How could you possibly even, how could you even fathom something that happened that far ago? But what people do is they just appeal to the white coats. They just appeal to scientists, doctors, and they just figure someone smarter than me figured it out. It's this far back, Hawking, right? And the others too, right? People smarter than me, they basically offset the responsibility of questioning onto authority. So they just say, someone in an authority position says that this thing happened this long ago, and then the galaxies, the solar system formed, and we have our sun that formed. Heliocentrism comes in here, and then you get Earth, and then you go into, from there you go into the primordial soup Darwinism angle, which goes basically what? Primordial soup, a lot of this is taken from Hinduism, is like the idea of becoming. Natural selection gets you, from amoebas and single cell, double celled, becoming. This kind of concept or idea of starting with the primordial soup, like in Hinduism, and kind of becoming all the way up to the highest life form that we have. You go through the different ages. You got the dinosaurs, you got everything, caveman, up unto the Homo sapien, or us as members of the Great Ape family, where they put us in the Great Ape family, but also not even just stopping there, going into even psychology, right, where you have Freudian psychology, which is deterministic, kind of looks at it as like the animal brain and kind of the neocortex, or like the more human aspects of the mind or of the brain. Sort of this popular online is one of things like lizard brain, this kind of stuff. The hind brain, the older, more animalistic instincts and drives. And so it finds its way even into psychology, where instead of a couple hundred years ago, if somebody felt guilty for something, maybe they would go to confession. Nowadays, they're going to be going to a professional, right? A psychiatrist, psychologist. They may, give them drugs. They may, the psychoanalyst, they'll go the Freudian, stuff, go back to your childhood and check and see what happened to you as you were developing, and then, put you on something and try to get you, back to whatever you kind of want, right? So, or on the path to recovery, versus confession, where you would have the religious kind of idea of expelling your guilt or talking about the things that you felt guilty for, and then your pastor, priest, and wise man, enter whatever title you want. Various religions would maybe say God forgives, this whole thing. You can kind of expel this and it's okay most of the time, depending on what it is, and then kind of go from there. So in terms of the backstory of atheism and in the Big Bang evolution stuff, I would say that from an understanding that gods are really like a physical manifestation or an understanding of principles, a way that we can kind of understand different forces, like you have all your different Greek gods, you have Thor, Zeus, all these different ones. A lot of atheism with big enough numbers, because what they basically do is they say that universe started this long ago, and due to maybe some kind of computation of the universe or expansion, ever expansion, a number of iterations, from n to whenever, if the number gets large enough, based on chance, eventually you could get to an existence that's like ours. So eventually, with large enough numbers and having certain rules set, let's say, of our universe or of our reality, with big enough numbers and enough variation and enough, chance, you could get to our type of life form. So human beings. You could get to human beings without an intelligent design, without any kind of guiding hand. Eventually, you could get to Homo sapien, eventually. So I would look at this, even though it's supposed to be devoid of deities and devoid of godhood, which is an atheistic idea, this is almost like a worship of chance, because what you're kind of doing is you're sort of saying, if the time was long enough and enough chance and enough iterations and things happened, eventually you would just randomly happen to get a system like we exist in. So the goddess for this one is Tyche, which is a Greek goddess, basically a goddess of chance. So so a lot of this, I would say, is chance worship, right? It's basically saying that we deny all deities, we deny all greater, life forms or other planes of existence, higher planes of existence, aside from our own, and we just see it as random happenstance or chance that we could exist or we could come to this kind of existence just based on random happenstance, based on chance. Okay, so that's kind of what I would say is the game that's sort of being played here. This one's cool right here. So you go from Moses to Darwin, intelligent design versus evolution. So that's pretty cool. Now, origin of the species. So let's go into origin of the species a little bit and Darwinism. So the full title, Darwinism, origin of the species by means of natural selection or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life. So that was Charles Darwin. So this comes about what 100, over 150 years ago now, because we're in 2020. So mid 1800s or so with Darwin, and the Huxleys were also involved. Darwin's bulldog. So you basically have a Hinduistic, and part of it is kind of like it's very Jewish in what he's proposing or what he proposed. It's almost like the beastification or the unwashed nature, the unwashed, referring to the masses. So it's almost like a religion that's been given to the masses, but it doesn't seem to me like the people that were producing it. Take, for example, a lot of the people involved, Jewish, like Freud and many of the others. There are certain Jewish texts that refer to this as something that was the Darwinism was created by Jewish money power, basically Jewish money interests, pretty much out of your London type of powerhouses, right? So this was basically rolled out, so far as I can tell, and then you had communism, Marxism coming afterwards for basically, I want to say a rules for thee, not for me, but basically something that's been given to open society or something that's been given to the masses to explain their existence without giving them providence of their existence. So it's sort of like a removal of you being special, a removal of anything about you that's really a soul, a spirit, right? That it could all, again, the Taisha chance, happenstance could just happen over the right natural selection and a way of understanding a Hinduistic becoming, right? A becoming of people without intelligent design or without any kind of designer having been there. The other part which they've cleanly removed from all the Darwinism stuff is the second part of the title here that you can see, the preservation of favored races, and the difference between races as far as biological determinism is concerned. So some of the areas that have been studied, differences between racial IQ, differences between maybe psychological traits of different races, right? This all included in here. And this spilled into World War II. So this kind of thinking of different races, Nietzsche gets in here too, which we'll come up to later, with the idea of an Übermensch or a Superman. So it doesn't even just stop at Homo sapien, part of the great ape family, but it even goes into the extension of this line of thinking goes into differences between races and racial superiority. So preservation of favored races in the struggle for life. So not only that, you have a becoming, but kind of the concept of the Übermensch, where you get into Nietzscheism later, where there could be certain families of the human family or of Homo sapien that are either more evolved than others or that are somehow greater than others, right? Like certain people have a certain thing, different IQ, which could explain, maybe certain groups better at warfare than others. An understanding of maybe European civilization versus like kind of like the Asiatic civilization, the blacks in Africa and everything, and really getting into a separation here of not even just Homo sapien from other great apes, but a deterministic separation in terms of people, even just based on race. So they've cleanly removed that. I'll put it back in here because this was the original title, right? And this is what it has to do with. But I think they want to kind of clean this off, that part off of it, and just keep the good stuff that they want, right? They want to get rid of the differences between race, racial IQ, racial behavior, all this stuff. And they want to just bring it, they kind of want to clean that part off and just take the monkey stuff, because that's beneficial for that. So this is a cool quote here by Fred Hoyle. The chance that higher life forms might have emerged through evolutionary processes is comparable with the chance that a tornado sweeping through a junkyard might assemble a Boeing 747 from the material therein. And that's probably an understatement, actually, because if you think about all the things that would have to be laid out for us to be able to exist in the capacity that we can, or even something like the human eye, right? And even just now, us starting to create, in the last maybe 10 or 20 years, getting to the point where our cameras, you guys are watching me on right now, or your web camera in your computer, or cameras that you watch Walking Dead on or movies on, just getting to the point now where like you're getting into resolutions which are, especially with Zoom and stuff, which are superior now, right? So you're just now getting technology that we've created that is starting to surpass just now, the abilities of human eyes, right? To be able to do that. I mean, there are so many, the amount, like in terms of Taish worship, or in terms of chance worship, there are so many, and it really is worship, because it kind of, at least in my mind, it has to be worship in order for you to explain away all the marvels of our realm, of the world, and of people. It really, I feel like it has to be a worship of chance to really think that all of this could come about without a designer. It'd be like if you walked out in the desert and you found the camera I'm using is a Panasonic Lumix right now. You're watching me on it, right? It'd be like if you stumbled out there and it had, okay, let's say maybe it has a rechargeable battery or something, solar battery or something. You picked up this camera, you turned it on, it worked almost perfectly, almost flawlessly, and you just found it, in the desert somewhere and just tried to use it and it worked, and let's say the memory worked and everything like this. This is the kind, like, if you looked at that and you thought this could come about, this camera could have formed here just by chance, right? Without any kind of designer or hand or person having put this together and built this and all the different subcomponents, the lenses and all the different iterations that would have to the previous models to be able to work up to a model that's going to be able to capture 4K video, right? Like that. I mean, just think about all the design that would have to be involved to create something. Again, you start off small, right? The first cameras we had were junk. They weren't doing 4K. They were doing like, little tiny, pixelated, whatever the resolution was, times however many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of different cameras that have been developed by humanity over time to get up to something that's just now able to capture, maybe finally pass the ability of the eye to be able to zoom, to be able to capture, and then we can sit on a computer and see, amazing quality video and stuff that maybe drone footage and stuff that's captured. The concept that any of the things that we see in reality, or you as a human being, or your body, right, or a child, a newborn, an infant, right? My wife's pregnant right now, so that's why I think about this, right? But the possibility that all of this could come about just by some chance without any kind of design, I think is a purest form of worship I can ever consider, because that way of trying to understand the whole system just based on large numbers and chance, computation is part of that too, right? Large numbers of computation of the system you're in to build through chance everything that we naturally just have in the natural world. The water cycle, everything we see is, I mean, this is an understatement that you'd have to have. It's like the chance of a tornado creating a Boeing 747. I'd say even that works too, right? Like not just that, but a Boeing 747 that you could, put fuel in and just go and fly, right? This is an understatement. The amount of things that we see and the complexity of everything that makes us up is even, I would say astronomically more than just a Boeing 747. Like I think human beings are so much more advanced in what we are, our ability to reproduce and recreate ourselves. The idea, now animals can too, but even animals too, like the design of an animal. I mean, it would be like the possibility of that just coming about just without any kind of guiding hand, I think is basically impossible. I don't think it would ever happen, no matter whatever numbers n to infinity, no matter how high your numbers get, no matter how many computational cycles, as we call seconds, or like micro seconds, no matter how many computational and how long it is, spamming chance, I think would just lead to corruption indefinitely. Corruption computed into indefinitely, and I guess what the atheism idea is that out of continuous chance computation, eventually you'd get some kind of forming, meaning in that, without any kind of leading hand or designer. I don't buy it. I really don't buy it. It'd be like if I found a Lumix 4K camera in the desert, I would think somebody built this. I wouldn't think to myself, this had to come about because of natural, building or something. And again, I would see that as even a Lumix camera with a 4K lens or 4K video capability is not anywhere near how amazing human beings are. It's not even close to what we can do. I mean, and not only that, Lumix cameras don't, reproduce themselves. Someone has to actually build. We actually can reproduce ourselves. We have almost, I'd have to look up and see what the visual capability of human beings are naturally, but it's amazing. All the different things we can do, and then the things that we can build on, externally just outside of ourselves, right, is really amazing. So, so we'll come back to kind of mind weapons after and the purpose of atheism, or the purpose of the propagation of atheism, because it does have a purpose, I would say. So like there's a political agenda to atheism. That's what I'm saying, basically. So here we got Nietzsche with his super sweet mustache. I just remember Nietzsche because he's got this wicked awesome, like he's got like the definition of a manly mustache, right? He's got like the Ubermensch mustache to infinity. It's like bigger than his face. It comes out all the way to here. But this is the guy who did the God is Dead. A lot of this decadent psychological propagation, right? This black, what I want to say, like shit, as far as psychological garbage and psychological shit, because where this leads to is basically suicide if you accept it, pretty much, because nihilism, Nietzscheism and nihilism. So the quote here is man merely a mistake of gods, or God merely a mistake of man? So this is also one that I also view as an extension of, world Jewry or Jewish. What was propagated here did spill into, I would say, a lot of what happened with World War II. A lot of this spilled into that. So the effects of mind propagation, or ways of thinking, patterns of thinking, and viewpoints does affect action later. So laying out the groundwork for human beings, nihilism, and I believe later on in his life too, you can read the historical takes on it. I think he did kind of go crazy, or some of these people are into like incest too, like incestuous. Einstein and some of the others, I forget. I have to look up particularly Nietzsche's backstory. We could probably do a whole thing just on that, but it's not. I don't think it's of much concentration or of much significance. Basically, I view him as a propagandist for nihilism, which is just that nothing means anything. We're all a product of Taish, or of chance. So we don't mean anything. We're not important. We don't have. And again, this was propagated, I believe, only in open societies. Like the closed-off societies, I don't think they let any of this mind garbage in. This was only put out there for open society and regular everyday people, right? That it was propagated to. And if you do take university psychology, from what I remember, Nietzsche is one that they actually cover. It's just drivel, and it just makes people not want to reproduce, not want to have kids, not even want to live in some cases, demoralizes them, and makes something like suicide acceptable, because it just gets into like meaninglessness, atheistic, happenstance, chance, meaninglessness, and then the attitude of people who buy into this just becomes self-hating. It becomes suicidal. It becomes just aggressive to others, right? Because then you externalize that they also are products of chance. They don't mean anything either. Nothing means anything, so there's no point in anything. And there's a lot of movies too, by the way, that will touch on nihilism. You see a lot of nihilism in movies. I had to find exact examples, but doesn't matter, whatever. I was watching a DC movie the other day. There was a character, Owlman's his name, and he's like a Crisis on Two Earths, it's called. Owlman is like an evil Batman in the universe, and his final line is, whatever, it doesn't matter, as this giant bomb goes off and blows him up. So this is like nihilism, right? Like this is an Owlman, you could say, who's an evil Batman, is a nihilistic type character. If the whole thing blows up, it doesn't matter, because nobody matters anyway and nothing matters anyway, so we blow ourselves up, whatever. That's nihilism. So Nietzscheism, nihilism. Dawkins, old buddy here. So again, I had his book, The God Delusion. I went ahead and recycled it. I've heard enough from him to see what he's doing. I view him as an agent, basically. Similarly with some of these other intellectual dark webbers, where they're just there to promote atheism. That's what they're doing. That's their job. They're getting paid to do that, just like Sam Harris, right? Same kind of thing in the neurology, right? And some of them are very respectable in terms of their profession. Some of them PhDs, this kind of stuff. There was the Four Horsemen atheism, I think they were called, Dennett. There was Hitchens, I think was another one. Dawkins, and my doppelganger evil cousin. But I do have an excuse for Sam. He's part Jewish, so it's a little dig. Okay, minor dig. Okay, so that's my excuse on his part. But basically, you know what it is. It's they go around, and you see this a lot online. I feel like Peterson's he's sort of like. He's not exact. He's a little bit better as far as I want to say providence goes. Like as far as he'll go into God and he'll do a lot of this stuff, which is commendable. I like that. But definitely online and online space, you have a lot of this stuff propagated for the atheism angle, and it does have a purpose. Okay, so that's what I'll say about Dawkins. He's basically Darwin right now. He's your Darwin right now. He's your bulldog right now. So he's basically his job is to go around and basically promote atheism. That's pretty much what it is. So that's what he's there for. That's his duty. And so he's doing his job as he's doing it. Did I type in Big Bang Theory? Typo. Big Bang Theory. Okay, so the TV series Big Bang Theory. So you get the Hawking stuff, Big Bang Theory, and it not just staying in kind of like education, but a full mending into the culture of Big Bang Theory. You know, for example, CBS, of course you got the I, right, in CBS. Of course you do, right? Right there. Yeah, of course you got it. So Big Bang Theory, you know, sitcom, something that's on all the time, like a more modern Friends or something like this. You guys remember Friends? I think they did a reunion or something recently. But it's like part of the culture, Big Bang Theory, and they're all like nerds, right? Pretty much. I don't watch it, by the way. I don't like it. But it goes into, you know, you got kind of like the fandom stuff as part of it. It's kind of a more modern generation Friends show, right? But based on the 13.8 billion years ago, this object collided with that object and exploded. And instead of this explosion destroying everything, this explosion somehow booted the system and created all the different, you know, all this space junk and all this stuff out there. There's a Walking Dead one for you guys, space junk, right? And eventually became Milky Way, and eventually we get our solar system, we get our sun, and we get our other stuff. And then just by chance of all these different lifeless rocks being out there spinning around and gravity pulling each other, it's sort of like gravity, kind of like almost like an electromagnetic type force that attracts objects just based on mass alone. So somehow with gravity you get the concept that objects, it's like magnetism, right? It's like electromagnetism, like the Tesla stuff almost. But gravity was Newton in the year 1666, so you get your 1666 for Newton when the apple drops and hits him on the head. So it's like the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve with the apple, but it's the apple falling on the head, which jars the idea of Newton, where he discovered gravity or invented it, whatever you want to think. But gravity's sort of like this this concept similar to magnetism, that objects pull each other or attract each other just based on mass alone. So when you get objects that are massive enough, like Earth or other planets or the sun or whatever, it allows for you to have your solar system, where you have your heliocentric system of the sun, planets rotating around the sun, the moon there in position is like maybe part of the Earth that broke off or something, and just kind of hangs in position there and has a pull. So you have the pull between objects, which allow them to orbit each other and allow them to stay in position to each other for existence, right? So it all kind of ties in together. Scientism, which is, you know, atheism and scientism they're very similar. They're almost the same thing right now, as far as what they are. So Big Bang Theory, it deserves a mention in culture. Here's Tyche, the goddess of luck, fortune, and chance. So this was Greek goddess. We got different renditions for Tyche, and and so that's what it is, right? Long enough time period, big enough thing. It's faith and chance. That's what it is. It's faith and chance based on what you see. So it's you're retroactively working in the chance aspect. So you're looking around, you're seeing what you see in our reality, and you're working it back based on what Hawking and the others have given you, right? That has been given out through UNESCO to you, to all the schools and everything, and then culture, Big Bang Theory, and movies. You know, all the Star Wars stuff, outer space stuff, Star Trek, aliens. You know, all of these aspects of culture to basically put you into this Hawking universe, ever expanding. Massive. Again, large amounts of time, large numbers of planets, large numbers of galaxies, large, and large enough that's difficult to comprehend. In terms of design, purposefully difficult to comprehend, in order to make Tyche work for the atheists, where they can just say, well, chance, enough things happen enough times, and eventually maybe you get human beings. Okay, so that's what we got for that. Atheism, just different. There's Sagan too. Somebody put him on there. What's his quote? Let's see what Sagan's quote is. There's also the show Cosmos. We also have Neil deGrasse Tyson. We got to throw Neil in here, right? He's put in a life's work into the building the atheism, heliocentrism stuff. So we gotta give him a shout out too. Carl Sagan. It is far better to grasp the universe as it really is than to persist in delusion, however satisfying and reassuring. I agree 100%, Carl Sagan. To grasp it as it is and investigate as it is and not listen to you guys who want to tell us how it is when you're lying. Yeah, touche. Big Bang wallpaper is what I got for that. Just different stuff. Some cool stuff here. And let's see. Here we got Hawking, right? So we got Hawking. So this guy is, I guess, the smartest, according to Scientism. This is your smartest dude that's basically ever lived, according to kind of the Scientism stuff. This is the guy that's going to tell you how the universe started. Yeah. So, now there's videos of him, without being too pointed or anything or adversarial. There's videos of him where it seems obvious to me. His teeth also change a lot too, by the way, which is very interesting. Basically, there's videos of him where he will almost say nothing, and he's got what seems to be an entire team around him for the most part, where they will basically answer for him. So somebody will ask him, something like how the universe started or objects and mass and what have you. And, he'll kind of mutter a few words or mutter a few syllables, and then his team around him will go into large, exorbitant, answers that are far more complicated. I view Hawking as like a Professor X character, as I've said before. He's basically like your Charles Xavier. You have Charles Xavier in X-Men, right? Where they work in the evolution stuff also. So you don't want to limit yourself in terms of understanding all the blocks that are being added here in terms of thinking through not just UNESCO and the education system, but also in entertainment through characters like a Professor X. If you watch the X-Men movie, they go through evolution. It goes through this process, that process, whatever. And then sometimes evolution jumps or skips, and you get mutants. And then we get our Wolverine, who's awesome. Gotta love Hugh Jackman. We get our Deadpool with Ryan Reynolds, I guess. Blam blam. And we get our Professor X, where he's got the super mind. So I would say that Hawking is a world stage character because people want answers to things. They want to have an answer. The Goyim or the masses, they want an answer for everything. They want their higher-ups to tell them everything that they might want to know. Okay, how do you think the universe started? They want a presentation. They want a character. They want like a comic book. I would literally say this guy is a comic book type character. Here you have him here with all these things written on the board. Who did you write those, Steve? Did you write all these equations on the board behind you? I don't think you can write, can you? No, you can't write. So, this is this is from my position. Here he is. Where is this one? He's sort of like Superman. That's wonderful. He's got a Simpsons character, right? He's like super badass. Here he's got the apple. So then again, you have the apple, and he's doing a cross with his hands, which is interesting, kind of like an X or a cross, right? The cross. It's just a interesting picture. So so this is these are your different your demigods of scientism or of atheism. We'll get to that super chat after. We'll go into that after. Thank you for sending that. I'll take a look at this for a minute. Just let me continue with my flow for a bit. So these are your demigods of atheism, right? These are your priesthood of atheism. Your Neil deGrasse Tysons, your Dawkins, your Darwin, your Hawkings, where he's just hawking this stuff at you. But if you buy it, if you really think this guy's the smartest guy ever, your Einsteins, who's another one we could do a whole thing on. With relativity, well, you can't say anything because everything's relative, so you can't make absolute observations and all this stuff. My position on this is that this is a stage character for you. This is a Professor X character for you. This is not the smartest man who's ever existed. This is somebody who, look at the equation behind him. Look at the, just look at a simple picture. Sorry, the quality, I know, but I'm just trying to show, look at the equation behind him, knowing that he can't write any of this, right? Just think about it for a second, right? This is a whole operation. This is a guy that has a whole team behind him. He probably didn't even write his books. He's just a front. He's just a face for, for this wise man that you have, for this Christ-like character of science, right? Of scientism. He is, and you got Star Trek stuff, right? Going in as well to Shatner and the others. So this is your, one of your wise men or your demigod type characters for scientism and atheism. This is one of your chance instill characters, right? I really highly encourage you. I didn't prep any for this presentation, but I would highly encourage you to go and watch some of the older footage, if you can find it, of Hawking, where they'll ask him something and he just it's pretty obvious to me, this guy doesn't know what's going on around him. This is a total put up. This is a guy who's he's paralyzed, so he can't speak properly. He's got this device thing that he supposedly, types into or whatever, and it supposedly gives you this great insight, like some kind of oracle or something. This is literally a modern day, oracle type character. That's what this is. This is the creation of a character, and who knows how long they will use him. They might use him as long as the current ruling elite stays in power, which it seems like that's extremely likely, right? In 1,000 years, they'll probably still have books with whatever human beings are around at that time. They'll still read Hawking, probably in 1,000 years. Little will they know that this guy was not even, is like a character, not even a real guy, like literally a character. If you think about his books and all this stuff, could he write all this? No, obviously he could not. It's the people all around him that did. So yeah, Nietzscheism. Okay, and we went through mind flaying. Okay, so this is a really cool card. This one is from Magic the Gathering, and this character is called the Mind Flayer. They used something like this in Stranger Things, where they had, I think it might have been season 2. Was it season 2 or season 3? I want to say it could have been either. I don't really remember. Maybe it was season 3. The character in Stranger Things, which has the Mind Flayer, which kind of goes in and takes over the mind of who? Does it go Will? Is it Will Byers? Is that who it takes over the mind of? The Mind Flayer. You guys seen this episode? You know this one where the Mind Flayer comes in and it basically takes over his mind. So this is what I would consider, especially with the atheism stuff, as a mind weapon to basically turn the people almost against themselves, right? Almost inward, to mind flay them, where their sense of providence is removed, their sense of being special is removed, their sense of being, of a soul and a spirit and anything important about them that would make them feel good about themselves. If you buy what's being hawked at you, okay? So it's if you buy what Stephen is hawking, all right? He's selling you on this. It's an offer. You don't have to accept this offer of Taish, atheistic, scientism, inevitable, a chance creation of you. It's something that it's put out there. It's institutionalized. You don't have to accept it if you don't want to. It's up to you whether or not you want to accept this kind of mindset and accept it for yourself, right? You don't have to. You can deny this and look at this with simple logic and say, this guy who's paralyzed obviously is not somebody that he's got trouble enough just getting by and living his life normally. It's going to take him forever to get dressed in the morning. He's going to need assistance for everything. Could he even write a book by himself? Probably not. No, he's probably going to need handlers and people to do that for him. Going into the Darwinism stuff, which was actually not popular when it first came out. All the Darwinism stuff was basically ridiculed and laughed out of the place. But eventually, when you put it into the textbooks and you institutionalize it for the people, eventually it takes hold. People can only fight back against it for long enough. Eventually, it's maybe accepted by some. A lot of the people that are part of more closed societies, like the churches and stuff, Catholics and everything, they would not have accepted that. Nazi Germany, for example, I'm sure would have definitely not accepted. They probably would have spat on it. They wouldn't have liked it. It would make sense why, like, you had Einstein where he left Germany because of the sentiment that they had towards these kind of things, right? They viewed it as decadent. They viewed it as psychological sludge, dirt, garbage, right? These kind of disgust words that would kind of give you a disgust sensitivity towards it. And you can see why, because it turns the individual against themselves. It takes away all their providence and all their meaning, and it fills them with a blackness or a void, right? Scientific atheism fills you with an emptiness of a void. I would say it's like a mind flay, like the other character you can see here in the card game, which is a cool rendition right here of a mind flayer, or of flaying the mind so that people, their sense of importance is dissolved from them, right? After that, they feel like they're just whatever, they're just monkeys, whatever, nothing means anything, who cares? This is a way to kind of like break and possess the spirit, right, of people. The spirit of providence, of love, of caring about one another. It's a way of breaking that, of separating that, and of saying, like, no, you're not important. You're just a monkey. You're just part of chance, whatever. You don't matter. Nothing like this. And it's not by itself. We probably should get into Marxism a little bit and see what you guys have to say about this. But it seems to be a precursor of demoralization for then communism afterwards. So communism, where you have the state being God, the replacement of this existential idea of a creator and being in a created realm. Communism seems to use atheism as a stepping stone to then institutionalize a state system where the state is God, where the state has godlike power, the state's always watching, kind of the same idea of like a life review and of God seeing all, this whole kind of thing. The communistic kind of like, viewpoint, I would say, uses atheism to get people into the right mindset, and nowadays seems to be using Gaia worship, which is Earth worship, which is the green stuff, right? So the Gaia Earth worship, in order to get people to almost turn inward, maybe become like vegetarian or vegan, or all this stuff where they're the nutrients in the foods they eat in terms of prowess, in terms of strength, right? Getting away from beef, so not eating beef, more of the green worship to. But you can see that it's kind of like physical flaying. When you take away these greater nutrients and these proteins and all this, and you fill it with vegetables, what kind of person are you going to have? Is the person over generations, will they shrink? Will they become shorter? Will they become malnourished? Will they, if they eat the bugs, will they still get enough protein to where they're going to be strong and be able to be that type of citizen? Or is it a communistic strategy to use the green Gaia worship and to use this communistic good for the planet, caring about animals, for example, an appeal to empathy to get people to weaken themselves further? So in this stream, we've been focusing on weakening of the mind, I would say, okay, through atheism, scientism, and Hawking, Darwinism, Big Bang, and natural selection, evolution, origin of the species, speciation, species on up to where we are. All the past. You go from all the way through our history from that. I would say the Hawking. So the Hawking point getting you to like a planet, solar system planet idea, and then going from the Darwinism stuff from the primordial soup up into us currently. So yeah, it's not. So atheism isn't, I think, the end. It's not the end. Finalized religion for everybody to have. It's what's been used, I think, in the last 100 to 200 years, 150 years or so, particularly. And then now it's going to move into Gaia, Captain Planet, Earth Worship, and everything that's involved with that. So I think that's there's a mind flayer there. This character I thought was funny. This is called Dr. Mindbender. So this is a character from G.I. Joe. He's got the monocle too, which I like, the one eye thing. But he's got the this huge mustache. His name is Dr. Mindbender. There's a figure that was just released of him that's pretty popular online. But I think the funny thing is the Nietzsche mustache, and of course he's Cobra also, right? So G.I. Joe has some fun stuff in it. So Cobra. So Mindbender. He's also a eugenicist, and he creates a super leader, which is called Serpentor, who he takes the DNA of different leaders, Genghis Khan and different leaders throughout time, and he merges them into one leader for Cobra, and the leader's name is Serpentor. So that's Dr. Mindbender with his sweet-ass Nietzsche mustache. Nihilism, rejection of all religion and moral principles, the belief that life is meaningless. This is as pure of a mind weapon as you could think of. Just look at the voidness of any love in this, just like visually, right? So you got the Hawking stuff up there with the planets in the solar system, right? But just the art of nothingness. And there's so much propagation of this in our culture and in our entertainment. There's just so much nihilism. And it's bleak and it's sad, really, is what it is. So that's that. Let's go to your dudes' super chats, and we can open the chats now. That's a lot of what I wanted to convey, is that atheism has a political agenda, and I'm proposing, this is a theory for you, I'm proposing that it's designed for communism. It's a mindset that was propagated out and created through agents like Hawking and agents like Darwin and the Huxleys, and they're still active even till now. Like Aldous, there's talks of Aldous from the 50s where he and his family were involved with a lot of the stuff with culture creation. Even up until now, you go to some of the podcasts like Joe Rogan and the others, you see this Darwinism stuff and this culture manipulation through these kind of concepts, and it creates a very bleak world with people who accept it. They even the extension of hallucinogenics goes into this too, and the McKenna and the machine elves and all this different stuff. The Huxleys, one of their ideas was that you could, using hallucinogenics and using drugs basically, you could use that for social control. So you could use drugs to socially control the people. I think that acid, for example, and hallucinogenics, one of the side effects of those, as a mind weapon too, you could say, I think it increases your agreeableness. And there's also the New Age, kind of atheistic New Age religion. It's sort of like the New Age stuff is kind of like partially atheistic, but then it's partially like we're all energy and we're all like, the hallucinogenic, the drugs, ayahuasca. You have a lot of guys like Brian from London Real do like this ayahuasca thing, and a lot of other guys will do it too. They'll go and do these shaman ceremonies of ayahuasca, and they'll kind of like, I almost feel like it's part of disintegrating a personality almost. Like it feels like to me, it's kind of like opening up a person psychologically in terms of spirit to like disintegration almost. Like it feels like the people that engage in these like acid and hallucinogenics and all this stuff, which is still popular even up until this point. Sometimes they'll touch on hallucinogenics. And usually your gatekeepers usually encourage hallucinogenics, usually. Now, why is that? Is that because it has mind-bending capability? Like it can take somebody who's stern and strict and right-wing, and with enough acid and enough stuff can loosen them up and kind of take back from that personality a bit? Because right now the system is also quite adversarial towards strict right-wing males. So it's sort of like maybe the acid stuff could be to open those people up to more leftist kind of thinking and personality diffusion, right? Like personality disintegration, personality diffusion, where you can take somebody who maybe is disagreeable and against some of the things that are happening, and you can give them hallucinogenics, and you can give them these different things with the New Age stuff where they go to these retreats and they do like, there's these groups online that get together. A lot of them popular too. They do ayahuasca or they do ceremonies and they do all this stuff. Even gets into the alien stuff a little bit too with like, DMT entities and all this stuff. As far as I'm concerned, this is all culture creation to control the people. So atheism, New Age, possibly even some of the other religions had control systems in it. Like even Christianity, for example, was very pro-government, right? It was like pro-Roman government, listen to your government, be a good citizen, do all that stuff. So there was a lot of that worked into it as well, too, with even other religions, too. So, let's go through some of your guys' comments. I think that's most of what I wanted to just touch on. There's other mind weapons as well, like psychological weapons that could be like nukes, for example, could be a psychological weapon where you could threaten to have this uber weapon and you could threaten to use it against another country if they don't surrender or something. And then maybe you firebomb or you do whatever and you convince them through Hollywood and Disney and sped up sunrise footage and stuff that you have this uber weapon, and if they don't surrender that you're going to use the uber weapon against them. So it doesn't just end with, there's a lot of things that could be classified as mind weapons. Aliens too might be part of that. They might be part of like mind weapons as far as like counterintelligence and scrambling. It's kind of like a scrambling, right? Like you're kind of bringing something in where you're bringing it into like crazy territory, right? Like you're bringing in these ideas which are like kind of nutty and stuff. They discredit people so you can use them for different things. So yeah. So thank you, Angel Corner, who says, love the channel, Trev. So thank you so much, Angel. I appreciate your support. And if you have a topic you want to throw in there for us to touch on, we can go into it. I thought that this would be a good one to do because we did one on Christianity. And I think that when you're going into communism and communistic systems, you really have to watch for demoralization. And I feel like the atheism stuff and part of the green stuff too, the Gaia worship with the Earth worship, a lot of it seems to be control-centered for demoralization. That's the way I see it. The New Age stuff for diffusion and the green stuff and atheism for demoralization. Because we always want to look to people for answers, right? Like, okay, well, what is it then? If it's not this, what is it then? For Nietzsche, if God isn't real, then what is it then? And it's just chance, right? It's just happenstance, basically. So we always want to have answers to everything. And that's tough because it's very possible that many of the higher ups and some of the most powerful people, they may not know shit. Like a lot of us think like, oh, this person or that person must know a lot or whatever. Sometimes their own mind has been flayed and they've bought into something. Even if they're a higher up or they're powerful or they're rich or whatever, there may be a celebrity, let's say, in a TV show or something or a movie or a person who talks at the WEF or something like this. A lot of times they're subject to their own mind weapons too. Like to their own to these ideas and how that can affect their mind also. and how they view others. So it's almost like different types of programming that can be given to different people for different purposes, right? Like some types of programming that can be given to somebody that could be effective for them for a certain position versus another. Take, for example, your military guys. They have to go through boot camp, and they have to get, even if they're devout Christians or something like that, where thou shalt not kill, they have to go through boot camp where they have to be reprogrammed to go into a war and take their weapon and shoot somebody and kill somebody from the other opposing force. So their previous mindset of Christianity, which is useful from a peace standpoint and a love standpoint and a family standpoint, they may have to wipe that and reprogram them for boot camp to go out there and be adversarial. So they have to program them for Satanism is basically what they have to do. They have to take somebody who's a peaceful, Christian person, who's loving, peaceful family, all that stuff, good to their neighbor, and they have to deprogram them of that. They have to mind bend them of that, and they have to put them through boot camp, shave their head, right? Cleanse it, physically cleanse it, shave the head, get rid of the identity to reprogram to adversarialism, which is what Satanism is. So Satanism, maybe we could do a stream on that. It's really just adversarialism. That's really what it is. It's like the goat. Have you guys seen? There's a video online of a goat fighting some rhinos, and it's freaking unbelievable. You should see this goat with the goat horns going at rhinos. There's a video right now. It's pretty popular. A goat fighting 3 rhinos, and it's like vicious. It's like no wonder why they kind of worship the goat, because goats are nasty. They got these horns and shit. They're like vicious. The rhinos are like backing up. They're like, this MFer's crazy. However much rhinos weigh, they probably weigh like thousands of pounds or something, right? These giant freaking walking armory tanks, right? And this goat probably weighs 1/10 of what the rhinos weigh, and it's backing them up because it's got these vicious goat horns, and it's just like, so the rhino's like, this one, shit, I don't want to fight this MFer's crazy, I'm out of here, right? So it's adversarialism. So maybe we could do one on that after. But basically, yeah, religions have a purpose, and they have a lot of impact on a person's behavior. So if someone is a devout Christian and they won't kill at all, they, as far as joining the military goes, sorry, but that's not going to fly. They're going to have to go through reprogramming, and they're going to have to basically learn to be satanic, adversarial to the opposing side that they're going to be facing, that they're going to be fighting. So we'll go back to the beginning, and thanks a lot very much to Angel Corner. I really appreciate it, and thank you for enjoying the stream. I hope you liked it, and that's my take on atheism. Yeah, and then later on, which might be as we get older, and especially into our children's generation and grandchildren, you're going to see that atheism switch to Gaia. You're going to see that Earth worship, I think, really start to take hold. Carbon credits, green energy, all the renewable stuff, taking care of the planet, which is a new religion, which is best adapted or best suited for, I think, the direction that the higher-ups want to take the world in. So they want to take the world into the green initiative, the green agenda, sustainability, and all that stuff as a new religion, which is a worship of the earth over people. So the Christian people, and even Jewish as well too, right? Like the Jewish sentiment is like Judaism is where you have, people. In Judaism, you have the Jays at the top of the purest spirit. Then you have the Goyim, which are not of the same. Judaism doesn't put the Goyim at the same level as them. They put themselves at the top, maybe above them. You have God and however they see that, right? But then the Goyim below them as beasts, right? As part of the animalistic family, like grade 8 family. So this is why I say that Darwinism is very Jewish, because they have themselves at one rank, and then they have the Goyim, everybody else at a lower rank as beasts, right? Refer to them as beasts or as lessers and, mindless, this kind of thing. And then below below the goyim, you have the animals. So you have the higher animals, larger animals, smarter animals, right? And then you go down of lesser to like plant life and food. So to eat of the meat in terms of like Judaism is sort of like to eat something that's of higher order than the plant and the vegetarian and the vegetables and all that stuff. And you can see it too in people that are meat eaters. They're bigger. People that eat beef, like a lot of the stuff right now with the green stuff is anti-cow and anti-beef. I have no doubt that that's because there is the desire. I don't think it's because of gases and methane and cow farts. I think it's because it's putting into the system a restriction on meat to shrink the people. I think it's to basically move them down. Big, strong people are harder to control than people that are weaker, of lesser. Okay, so vegetarian, veganism, all this stuff is like of lesser. You know that they're not. If somebody doesn't eat meat at all, it's very hard to maintain muscle mass because the nutrients that you're getting in that are at the plant level. So in terms of Judaism, you have like the level system, the way they view it, and they'll argue this too because they just argue everything, right? But them, and then goyim, and then the meats, right? The animals, right? And then the plants, and then the beneath that, right? Even lesser than that. So is this canon to Walking Dead? Sure, if you if you want it to be, sure it can be. And we got a couple other super chats we'll go into. So thanks again, Angel Corner. And then we'll go to next one is from Infamous NYC, who says Harari and Klaus are very much we're gods. Yes. Klaus of WEF Forum even said God is dead. That's Nietzscheism. He wasn't the first to say it. And we're acquiring divine power. He was called out on it. Yes. So thanks for the super chat there, Infamous NYC. Harari is very scary to me. His mind is scary because when you see somebody, and Klaus too, this is Nietzscheism and atheism and communism. And this usually predates die-offs, giant freaking die-offs, because this is like getting the mindset where it needs to be for massive amounts of casualty. This is like, okay, so if Satanism, the goat head, is just adversarialism, which is what it is. Satanism is just adversarialism. Us and them. By the way, they're both Jewish, aren't they? I'm pretty sure they're both Jewish. I'm pretty sure isn't he Israeli? Yuval, isn't he Israeli Jew? I'm pretty sure. So I'm not sure, and same with my evil cousin Sam. I'm not sure if they actually believe what they're saying. I'm not certain of that. I know they're saying that God is dead, the soul is dead, the spirit is dead, we're done with that. Well, you can be done with it, okay? Rules for you, okay? I'm not done with it. The people are not done with it, okay? We appreciate existence. We appreciate life. Now, acquiring godlike power, I almost think is like, if you think of like artificial wombs and being able to create people and all this stuff, we kind of already have divine power to a degree. I mean, look at what women can do. You gals are pretty awesome, right? Guys, literally, like think about this for a second, okay? Not you, Val, because he's gay, right? But for you straight guys, look at this. Not to be homophobic or anything, but for you straight dudes, look at what women can do. You can literally go out there in the world and you can pick a woman of your choosing if she accepts you. There's some natural selection for you, of selection. This is probably an externalization of women's selection, right? It's probably what this is. It's like women like tall guys, so tall guys have more babies, and so you have more tall guys in the next generation too. But you can literally go out there in the world, you can pick a woman with the traits that you would like to acquire, and you can literally merge your existence with them and create a next generation of you with whatever traits you see as desirable. It's amazing, right? Like that's amazing. You can literally go out there and say, I sunburn really easily, so I think this time I'm going to go, okay, anyway, with someone who looks like this. Or you could say, I'm kind of dumb, So I want to find a girl who's like a university graduate. And if she's bigger, okay, that's fine. As long as she's like really smart. And I'm going to go with her. And then in the next generation, you can have kids that are a bit smarter than you are. It's amazing, right? So, okay, so anyway, rant over. But the point of what I'm saying is we already have amazing things that we can do. Absolutely amazing, things that human beings can do for each other and for a whole, for everybody. This idea that we're of lacking something, it's a lacking, right? It's a saying we're just now acquiring. Okay, maybe you'll have life extension tech where you can live longer. All right, fair enough. Okay, that's godlike in a way. Or you can copy yourself into a computer if you want to in Meta or something. Or create a Boston Dynamics cyborg version of yourself where you transfer your thinking patterns and your personality and your memories into a hard drive in a Boston Dynamics bot or something. Okay, I agree with you that that's pretty cool. Immortality in a way. It's kind of fraudulent, but it's immortality in a way. That's pretty damn cool, right? Okay, I agree with that. That's pretty freaking sweet. But the idea that human beings aren't special or we don't have something divine about us already, I think is totally fraudulent. I think that we already are special. We're already amazing. The things that we can do, absolutely unbelievable. The technology we can create, the things we have. So godhood or the Ubermensch to go. So you could say Yuval is basically Nietzsche. He's like a modern generation Nietzsche in a lot of ways. If you listen to what he's saying, he's basically talking about Ubermensch, Superman. We can all be magic Superman. He's talking about the Ubermensch or the creation of a separation, which again is very Jewish, right? Like this whole mindset is Judaism. It's very Jewish. It's a separation of you from the Goyim, or it's a separation of you to some kind of Ubermensch, superhuman type of form where maybe like a rich person or something could be an Ubermensch, right? They could be godlike, or they could have godlike abilities or powers to do things. They could, have their own private jet, and they could have their own team that does all their stuff for them. And they could, maybe for eugenics, maybe if they got some secret sauce stuff that they haven't given to us, maybe they can do the artificial womb thing, and they can actually like possibly program genes and do eugenics to that degree where they can mind bender, change DNA, and grow the next generation with specifics. Maybe they could switch your eye color. So you could say, my eyes are brown. I kind of want to have green eyes because that's pretty rare. Or red eyes for something new, right? So you could switch it in the editing, and then the next generation, your kid could have green eyes or red eyes or blue, or who knows, freaking purple or something. You could somehow maybe find a way to, maybe they could do it. That'd be more hard because you wouldn't just have to copy the genetics for that. You'd have to maybe create them. So I don't know, that would be more difficult. But, being able to edit and do all that stuff. So while it's true that we are acquiring these kind of powers, and human elites, as he says, are acquiring these kind of powers, godhood basically, the thing is that I think that we're already of divine creation as it is currently. And I am very fearful of people that propagate this kind of demoralization to the people that they can, whatever audience they can. This kind of nihilistic Nietzsche, God is dead, heartless, soulless, propagation it's sad. It's really, really sad because it shows a lack of love for the other people. And I would also say too, like if it's a utopia idea, the thing is that you're never going to get to utopia with adversarialism unless you create dissolution. So if you are adversarial to a point where you dissolve your adversary, whoever you deem that to be, I suppose, you're only going to get to your utopia after you have already adversarially wiped out your others. If you don't get to a point of existence of acceptance and love for each other and cooperation for each other, then you won't get your one more thing. They're kind of like one more thinging themselves. Well, if I just get this, it's like a materialism thing. if I just get this new item or this new toy or this new comic book or this new shirt or car, then I'll be happy. There's the lack there, right? It's like if I get one more car, you got the Tates with his 33 cars, right? Well, why not get 50, Andrew? Will that make you happy if you have 50, right? Do you need 30 plus cars? Would the 34th make you more happy? Does everybody not see this is complete ridiculousness? It's like the Trump with his frickin' towers and his buildings and shit. Would one more Trump tower make you happy? Would one more giant building somewhere else of high value hotel make you happier? Will that do for you? It's all coming from a lack, which is actually internal, right? This is internal projection outside, right? This is internalized projection out to the others. So yeah, so it's something definitely to watch in the next few years. But thanks a lot, Infamous, for the super chat. And yeah, it's modern day Nietzscheism is what it is. And then, did you say that twice? Oh, he also said Harari and Elon Musk were pro-hallucinogens. Yeah, Elon is also one of them as well. He's like a modern day Von Braun, I see him as. I see him as like a Generation 2 Von Braun, sort of. I had an idea that maybe he's Von Braun's bastard, but I don't think the timing works out just quick. He does look a little bit like Von Braun, actually, as a matter of fact, which is funny. I just have to comic book everything. Like Castro, and, it's like, I wonder if Elon is Von Braun's bastard. No, I don't think so. That one's not true, but I like to make these up in my head. Okay, Harari and Elon Musk were pro-hallucinogenics. Both started as automation, took more jobs. They advocated it or video games. Yeah, that's Yuval also said the solution is drugs and computer games. So the Huxleys got it, and prawn. I'll add to that prawn. I think E. Michael Jones, Owen, a lot of the other very smart people that you can see on BitChute and elsewhere. They've really exposed also that prawn is also a mind control tool as well. It's almost like a demoralization tool, but it's addictive too, right? So prawn is like a demoralization tool that's out there too to demoralize the masses. It has, I think, over long periods of use, it has very bad psychological effects long term. Demoralization, worthlessness. So in other words, try not to watch it for you guys because it's not good. It's not a real relationship. You're watching somebody else do something. It's not a genuine pair bonding relationship where you're actually doing that. So that's another, what you could classify as a mind weapon as well. But yeah, he said drugs and computer games. So he sort of like got it. So his mindset from at least those statements he's made is like a Nietzsche, nihilism, atheistic Jewish, and then throw into that Huxley, drugging kind of concepts. I'll accredit these different concepts to the people who, are most notable in them. Okay, so that's the way I'll look at it. So I'll see it as like apprentice and a school of thought. So you have a school of thought, you have a person, and then you have their next generation apprentice that kind of takes after them. In the same way that Dawkins is like a modern day Darwin. He's following that school of thought. He's propagating it. It's almost like a family business. That's what he's doing. The character in Von Braun's book who goes to Mars is named Elon. So that's fun. So you got Elon as well too. Well, I actually don't know how intelligent Elon actually is. He seems very intelligent. He seems cool too also, which is points online on the internet. Joe Rogan has got lots of points just for being cool, right? So, it's not always about, how intelligent somebody is or isn't. But Elon is pretty intelligent. I think we could say he's doing the space stuff. So that's like, you guys know how I feel about that. It's like, okay, fair enough. But he seems like he's more. I'm not going to say he's a good guy because I don't really think Elon is a good guy. I think he's in the middle, but he's definitely one of the elites, that's for sure. He's definitely one of our kind of like oligarchs. I think his family was like some kind of diamond mine or something, emerald mine. That's where Elon's parents, emerald mine owners, I think in South Africa, right? Is that what it is? Yeah. So I like him. You know, there's a lot of people who are high on his Twitter horse lately with his blood armor. I like his blood armor suit that he was wearing there a little while ago. Was that for New Year's or something? Something like that. So he's high on his blood armor Twitter horse, and he's slaying the censors or something. But then the ADL came after him because they have an unbelievable amount of pull and power that nobody should ever have ever, but they do. So whatever. Anyway, we'll see what happens with that, and I don't know, but I don't expect censorship to go away anytime soon at all. But yeah, he's so that's the answer. Is basically for meaninglessness, for not having a job, they intend to drug and computer game, in the Matrix. So they put you into a situation, UBI, drugs and computer games, and that's the idea, So that's what they're planning to do. What's up, Zane? How you doing, man? We got Gigadeath. How you doing, dude? Demoralize the enemies. That's right, Gigadeath. Yes, they will try to demoralize you. So when you're out there living life and you're watching commercials and you're watching movies and you're watching stuff in pop culture, and it puts your mind into an alpha state where you're just relaxed and you're just peacefully engaging in what you're doing. It could even be training at your job and stuff. I just want you guys to try to defend your mind from demoralization and demoralization type of tactics. Erasure. You see this a little bit with the with whites and a lot of the commercials and stuff. Like it's all multicultural. Like all of it's multi. There's almost no representation for just classic like American people anymore, or just Eastern European people anymore, white people basically. So you see a lot of this, like you get a sense there's kind of a demoralization starting to occur with whites. So chin up, guys. Be careful. Guard your mind. And there's always a every action. There's always other effects. Like if you have that kind of demoralization or replacement in the media, then what happens? A lot of people cancel Netflix subscriptions. A lot of people turn off. They don't support it. So a lot of times, like with Disney and that, how much money they lost last year, and Netflix too, a lot of times there's a snapback. If a group tries to do something like that, they can pretty much expect to see a snapback afterwards, that there will be effects of that, and people may not buy your service or they may not engage if it doesn't speak to them and if you don't represent them in the media. If people don't like something, then ultimately they're not going to pay for it, and that makes it difficult for you to continue. So so good stuff. So Wesley Curry says, so to set me straight, are you a theist or an atheist? I'm basically a theist. I am certain that we exist in a created system. Absolutely certain. Now, what the creator of the system is like, or what attributes it has or doesn't have, whether it's anything like Yahweh or God of the Bible, New Testament, Old Testament, whatever, I don't think there's any way to know for certain. But I think that we can say for certain that we're in a designed reality, intellectually, of divine creation, divine intellect created system. I think we can say that. We're in a subsystem reality of something else. But because you're in a subsystem, there doesn't seem to be any way to know what's beyond the subsystem, or what will happen when you disconnect from the game, when you shut down the video game that we call real life and return back to source, or return back to the operating system above that this particular reality is running in. So I don't think there's any way to say outside of that at all. Sure, pantheism, it's up to you how you want to view it. It's your choice. I don't force belief on anybody. I just give you my thoughts on it. Yep, Infamous says Mother Gaia, so that's cool. Yes, Yeshua James, we'll say hi to you. Tool, Untao, and thanks to Beanies, who says, so Trev, are you a Marxist? So am I a communist? Not at all. Because in terms of the functional use of communism, it's basically going to be used by capitalists to create a forever system, I think, to lock in their wins. So you have WEF, or you have top-level capitalists that will lock in a communistic system for the middle class and the lower class, and some of the upper class too will actually not qualify. So communism as a movement of the rich to overthrow the people, instead of the proposed communism as a movement of the people to overthrow the rich. They sell it to you, or at least they did in the past before. They sell communism to say that communism is a movement of the people to somehow overthrow the rich, but it's not. It's the opposite. Communism is sort of a way to lock in a system and make it set so that people can't really adjust position much anymore. Once you get into communism, people are kind of set in where they are. Their lot in life is sort of set. They can't really change it. You know, the you'll own nothing, you'll be happy ideas. That's communism, but it's also like UBI, and it's sort of like a new version of it. But I really highly doubt that those people who are designing it and creating it are going to liquidate all their own resources and give it up to the system as well, and join the masses below. I could almost promise you that's not going to happen. It's going to be rules for thee, not for me. It's going to be communism for you, the people. It's not going to be communism for the people that are on the WEF. I can almost promise you that. So no, I'm not a communist, and I don't like communism because people's contributions to society are not equal. Some people work really, really hard and they contribute more. Some people don't contribute as much, and that's okay. It's just a natural run of the way the world works. Some people are really, really good at things, and other people are good at other things. Some people are really good at playing basketball or football or something, and they get paid accordingly for that because people enjoy it. People go to the games, they watch it on TV, so they can get a good wage. If nobody watched it, then they wouldn't be able to do it because there'd be no customers. Yeah, Giga Death, what's up, dude? Demoralized, yep, that's right. Okay, what else did you guys say here? Eli says, let's go, Trev. Yeah, no, not this week. This week we're getting serious on atheism, yeah. Kev Bo says, James, chapter 1, verse 27, religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their affliction and to keep oneself unstained from the world. I like it. Yeah, that's a good one. Very cool, Kevbo. Thanks for sending that through. And, okay, what else did you guys say here? Infamous NYC. I'm reading both their books now, the fourth turning, and I have 2 of Harris Sapiens. Okay, is that Sam's books? Could be. They're both Jews. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. I don't have a problem with Judaism, but they go out there for the Goyim and they give you something for you. I really highly suspect that they don't think of themselves or their family the same way. I really, really highly suspect that. Because a lot of this Kabbalah encryption stuff is based on closing off of the system. So they have their own stuff for themselves, but then they hawk this stuff at you, right? So they sell it to you. And it's unfortunate because most people do unsuspectingly lap it up, and they think that it has an air of intelligence. So they think if they're into the atheism stuff that they're smart or something, and then dumb people believe in intelligent design, and that's kind of part of the way it's sold to everybody, right? So that's what's done there. But yeah, I have to be very, very suspicious of them for what they actually refer to themselves or their family as. I don't think they think of their spouse as an animal. If they have kids, I don't think they think of their kids as monkeys. If they have, parents, I don't think they think of their parents as great ape, but I don't know, maybe they do. Maybe they think of them as like just, but I really highly doubt it. I really doubt it. Beanies. Trev, just read Brave New World. Yeah. So the think tankers come up with Brave New World, and so what they do is they create fictional works for potential futures, and then it helps them think tank on what to do in the now, the present, to bring forth certain Kurzweil's like this too, right? They project forward futurists, so they create stories and fiction of future realities that they can then take and consider for how they're forming things now. So they can kind of use futurism and then work backwards to where they want to get to based on fictional creativity. So they create something in terms of fictional creativity, like a potential future, like a Brave New World. And then they work back at it and decide, is this desirable for us to create something like this? Should we not do that? Should we do it this way? Should we do it that way? And then they sort, organize, and tailor their behavior now to lead to a planned eventual conclusion. So the futurists are very important, like Brave New World and Kurzweil and all the others. The Welleses did a lot of the futurism stuff too, right? At least in terms of sci-fi and that. So it's about extrapolating forward what different potential futures could look like, and then working backward from that to do things in the present that will yield a future result. So that's the purpose of these novels and these things. It's not just for entertainment. It's also to use them as a platform to work back from to create a potential, future and how they want that to be. What's desirable for them to, Animal Farm is another one. Top of my head here. There's lots of different ones. Yeah. Lots of them. So, thanks again. Good comment. Let's see. Yeah, spiritual based. Knocking Down Idols says, having a relationship with God is spiritual based on faith. Being a warrior for Christ isn't for the weak. We don't bow down to Satanism. Yeah, that's true. You do have to be able to stand up for yourself as well. Beanies says that I think Andrew Tate is a made-up character. Yes, you're right, Beanies. He's like a Hawking type character, although not as extreme because he can actually fight and do stuff like that. So, he can talk pretty well. So at least he can do like the WWE promo talk, right? Like, so that's what that is. Hawking couldn't do that. Hawking wouldn't have been able to do basic math, I don't think. Not himself anyway. And he wouldn't have been able to write. Maybe he could type letters with like one hand or some fingers or something. So at least with Tate as a stage character, like a CIA stage character, at least there's some truth to it, right? It's just a personality that's blown up bigger. The thing with like the Hawking stuff is it's so far away from reality. It's literally Professor X territory. So that's where I want to just really emphasize the distance between reality and a stage character like a Hawking, Professor X. At least Professor X could move his hands and stuff, right? And he could speak, because Hawking couldn't speak really, and yet he's going to tell you all these profound things, like how he's an oracle. He's an oracle character. That's what he's doing. It's a character. Okay, what else we have here? Very, very suspicious, infamous NYC of them. Their internal motivations could be different. Materialism is sick, says Monster Chief. To a degree, we need some materialism, right? We need things to keep us warm in the winter. If you live in Canada here, you need a furnace and stuff. So we need some stuff, but it's just there has to be, I think, a self-imposed enough point. You have to get to an enough point at some time. It's okay to have some toys and have the stuff that you need, but you should probably set an enough barrier, an enough limit for yourself. There's a lot of reasons for that, but yeah, I think everybody should have an enough point where you get to where you have enough. That's good. Oat Milk says, "Dang, Trev is calling me out." I'm calling you out? I don't think I called you out. Oat Milk. Okay. Thank you, Tool Undertow. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, we got some good comments. We got some junk in the chat. We're gonna ignore the junk, and we're gonna get into good questions here. Yeah, Kevbo says prawn is the ultimate demoralizer. I think it is. Yeah, it seems to be a long-term psychological weapon for depopulation, for demoralization, for family breakdown, for relationship breakdown, and for, what can we say? What else with the problems? I mean, there's a lot of things that it affects, right? Even to the point, like, you could get, I don't know. Anyway, we probably shouldn't talk about too much on YouTube because of the keyword triggers. But, yeah, it really feels like that's like an ultimate demoralizer, I want to say. So, because you're not pair bonding with a real person when you're watching something on a screen, it's very unnatural. It's very it's a weird new thing. I don't know. Anyway, that's what we'll say about that. But yeah, I think it is very, very bad long term. I think it is. Yeah. Also, what's up with all the boom in gambling? I don't know, but gambling is something where people do it because they want to win big, and it's a game of chance. Gambling is like atheism too. It's a worship of chance. It's a practical worship of chance, of athiest. So gambling is like, well, maybe my chance, just maybe my chance. Atheism is like gambling. Yeah, it's long enough time, big enough numbers, natural selection, just by chance we could occur. We could win where we exist versus not exist versus nothing. If one factor was off, we could be nothing, right? But we just got it right, so we just won. So gambling is like atheism. It's a practical worship of chance with your energy, your life energy, your money that you earn to gamble. It's a chance worship where you might be able, at least without logic, if you're just buying like a lottery ticket or something where there's no effort on your part involved. It's a practical worship of chance that you could win, because there's a chance you could win. You just got to get it just right. Atheism is like that for life and human beings. There's a lottery ticket. There's not huge, giant, trillions and trillions, the largest numbers you can conceive of different possibilities. And just under the one chance, you won the lottery and you're a Homo sapien. You just everything happened to coincide just perfectly without any design, with total randomness to where you occur, you happen to be alive. Yeah. So it's like winning the lottery, yeah. All right, what else did you get here? Yeah, it's up to you how you want to define stuff, Monster. I'm not going to be adversarial with you on how you like to define it. I'm just giving you my thoughts on it. That's all. It's up to you how you want to think of it. Your choice. Maybe I give you some stuff to ponder about. Maybe not. That's okay. Oat Milk says, I hope Netflix goes out of business. They might if they keep up the nonsense and they don't actually start to appeal to the people that pay for it. They might go out of business, and I'd be happy if they did. If they're gonna pull that nonsense, you serve your customer, or go out of business. Yeah. Beanie's, every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Yeah. What else we got here? Yeah, I'm not necessarily for Kevbo too. I'm not necessarily Bible thumping either. This book here is about the creation. He's proposing how Jesus was created as a character. So it's similar to, like, as I've just mentioned with Hawking, as an obvious character. Joseph Atwill in this book, Caesar's Messiah, he's proposing how Jesus may have been created based on the Roman Flavians. So I'm not going to say 100% for certain that I know that, Jesus was actually the Son of God. I'm sure he was a person. I'm sure he was there. The historical record says he was crucified. The historical record says that Pontius Pilate was the governor at the time. So that's what that is. But definitely you're going back a couple thousand years, so it's hard to say. But that was a completely different ruling elite than that we have now. The ones we have now are completely different from the ones that were there in the Roman Empire then. A lot of them are different anyway. You could argue maybe some of the families are related or something, but yeah, I'm not sure about that. It's quite a long time ago. You'd have to trace their bloodlines back or something. What else we got here? Two Under Toe says, I wish I could say that I've seen... okay. Okay, I don't know. Anyway, I'm just giving you the background and my thoughts on atheism. That's it. Okay, Monster Chief 117 says, Trev, I recommend you watch Adam Green. Oh, I know Adam, yeah. From No More News. He even had a nice debate and talk with E. Michael Jones. I'm very suspicious of him. I'll tell you this right now. I am extremely, extremely suspicious of him. He seems to be autistically hyper-focused on Jays for some reason. He's autistically hyper-focused on Jews. And I tend to think that somebody who wants to know and learn about conspiracy would learn about the plethora of so many that there are. Because there are literally so many topics there, and he only focuses on the one. So I'm very suspicious that he might be some kind of controlled opposition or something. I also don't like his takes on Christ. He tries to say recently that somehow the Jews created Christ, even though they hated... Like, if you read this book right here, it proposes that the Romans may have created Christ as a way to manipulate the Jews. But Adam has this idea that somehow the Jews set up this super conspiracy where they created Christ to give a passive savior to the Goyim, or to the regular people, to the Romans and to everybody else. I can't wrap my head around what he's selling. He seems like he's selling it to me. I don't understand. I don't understand why he thinks this. I really don't get it. From my perspective and all the research I've done, it seems like Jews don't like Christ. They don't like Jesus. They really, really, really don't. So to come out and say that they somehow... I can understand maybe if Josephus was involved with the creation of the Christ story and that it may be a story, but it certainly doesn't appear to be of Jewish propaganda to me. In fact, he's got it exactly the opposite. So I'm very suspicious of him. I'll say it that way. I'm extremely, extremely suspicious of him because he should know that all the opposite is Jewish, not Christianity. That's not Jewish. That's the opposite of it. That's, in terms of adversarialism, that's adversarial to Judaism in a lot of ways. Christianity is adversarial to Judaism. Judaism is also adversarial to Christianity. In the Bible, for example, the people that get Jesus killed are the Jews, right? And Pontius washes his hands of it and says, well, this is what you want, Judea, whatever, this is what you want. So I wash my hands of this. This is on you guys. So to say that somehow, to try to argue that somehow the Jews created Jesus or as a controlled opposition, I think he's making like a million stretches here. And there's so many different conspiracies to learn about. It's unreal. Why would you hyper-focus on that? And I just think like it's very, very, very suspicious. Very, very, very suspicious. Let me put it that way. I am extremely, extremely suspicious of him because everything I've ever read since I was younger would point in the exact opposite direction, which makes me think he's doing some kind of counterintelligence or co-intel thing where he's flipping it. Because if you look at Freudianism, Jew, Jungianism, Jew, if you look at kind of the shadow integration, this kind of like Kabbalah, understanding of good and evil and having a development in different ways of good and different ways of evil, this is all Jewish, man. This is Jewish stuff. So I don't get what he's trying. I don't get what he's trying to sell. I think he's either doing it on purpose. He could be doing it on purpose, knowing that it's total. He might be doing it on purpose, or maybe he's just been completely confused by the whole thing somewhere along the lines. I don't know. I think he's doing it on purpose, though. I'll tell you that right now. I think he's doing it on purpose. Also, I would like to hear his thoughts on all the other dozens or hundreds of conspiracies that are out there. The Jays is not everything. Like, that's part of the world. They're involved with a lot of different things, but they're not everything. There's so many different things happening. Although there are a lot of them involved with different key areas with respect to these debates, sure. But it's not everything. Von Braun, for example, was not a J, right? Von Braun was German. And he's someone you can look at just by himself and research and be like, wow, really, really freaking cool. All kinds of cool stuff here. all kinds of cool stuff to learn about him, rocketry, all this other stuff. There's so many different things to go into. Why would you hyper-focus on just that? I don't see it. It doesn't seem natural to me. Some people just think he's misinformed and confused. Well, that's fine. And everybody has their own understanding of these concepts in the way that they understand them, right? Like you have, for example, two opposites would be like E. Michael Jones and Peterson, right? Where you got two guys that are both like professors. One, E. Michael Jones, who's like, Catholic, I believe, right? And he's like, amazing. Like his stuff is incredible. And then you've got Peterson, who's like a juxtaposition of E. Michael Jones. He's like a Jewish E. Michael Jones, basically. Now, I don't think Peterson is I don't think he... I think he at one time at least said he was Christian or kind of Christian, but his Jungian shadow integration is all Jewish to me. So, I don't know. He's kind of like... Everybody's kind of got mixes of different things, right? Like everybody has mixes of different religions and understanding of the world. I'll give you my take from the years of research that I've done looking at these and wanting to know for myself, coming from my background, which is computer science, and, having been an atheist when I was in computer science afterwards, and then figuring out that this is actually part of an agenda. See, even atheism is a conspiracy in and of itself. It has an agenda. The green stuff is a conspiracy in itself because the green stuff is part of an agenda that's going to be used later. So it's up to each person. For example, Peterson, a lot of his Jungian stuff is very Jewish, but like shadow integration and becoming a monster, like some of his stuff he'll say, if you watch his stuff, he'll say like, you should be a monster, you should be ruthless, all this stuff. None of this is Christian. This is all adversarial, which is Satanism, and Jewish, I would say. Shadow integration, good and bad and all that. So it's definitely not Christian. So man, I'll give you my take on different things. Other people will have their takes, and that's totally fine. But that's if they're legitimate, like, for example, you got Andrew Tate. A lot of you guys are big on the Tates right now, right? So you got Andrew Tate, and he says he's Muslim right now, right? So, okay, he says he's Muslim, whatever, but he runs a prawn business, basically, and then some. Maybe it's that and more, right? Who knows? Don't know. But that's a huge contradiction. That's a massive contradiction. At least I think it is. I'm not Muslim, so I'm not really into it. I have some friends that are, but because Arabic, we've got a mosque fairly close to my house, but I don't know. I don't see that as Muslim. That's Jewish to me. Like prawn in of itself is a Jewish, created Jewish business. It always has been. Because Christians and Catholics would not engage in that unless they were like, not real devout Christians or Catholics, right? So, let's see. What else did you dudes say? Norman Reedus, what do you say, Pippo? Norman Reedus is he's kind of out there. He goes into all kinds of different things, but he's cool, that's for sure. I don't know what his religious take is, or if he sees himself as religious at all. Probably not. He's probably like New Agey, like New Age, probably spirit, energy, and all that stuff. That's the way I would see Norman Reedus's religious outlook. You could ask him. Why don't you ask him? Somebody ask him. I think it's more New Agey though. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. But to say from before, no, I do not think Jews created Christ for any kind of purpose at all whatsoever. In fact, it may have been the Romans. If Christ was created by an elite, it might have been the Flavian Roman dynasty that created it, but not to favor Jays, to be against them. So Christianity with Jesus may have been created for the Roman Empire, and then I think Constantine made it the official religion of Rome, but that would not have been like at the desire of the Jews. That would have been to give them probably their Messiah, and they rejected him anyway, so it still didn't really work. Anyway, I don't know. That's going so far back, it's hard to say. But I don't agree with anything that he's trying to put out there at all. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. What was your initial question, Tool Undertow? Send it again, what the initial one was. You want to talk about hallucinogenics? Well, I think hallucinogenics have an agenda to them as well, and that is that it can kind of like increase agreeableness. So when people take hallucinogens, they a lot of times afterwards they experience higher positive emotionality, and they, so it's like a diffusal thing, I think. It diffuses people when you take hallucinogens. It changes your personality afterwards indefinitely, I think. So the effects it has on the mind are like increased openness, so in terms of the character traits, increased of the big five, increased openness, reduced neuroticism, I think, and it also increases agreeableness. It makes you more of a yes man. It makes you probably less aggressive, I think. So there's all kinds of effects that hallucinogenics have long term that could be used for societal control. So that's why you get a lot of guys who are popular online that are like quasi-government people who will promote hallucinogens, like your Joe Rogans and people like that, where they're like quasi tip of the spear, U.S. military, that whole thing, Texas and that whole area. The McKennas and all the others and Peterson too, who's like an intellectual dark webber. There's like On It Network and all these different behind the scenes black webs that these guys are involved with that are quasi-government, where they'll promote hallucinogenics to their audiences online on the behalf of the government behind them. So they're basically agents in these ways to promote different things. So on the internet. So you probably are watching, you're like, oh, this guy's just like he's like Trev, he's a random podcaster or something. And little do you know, it's like he's got this deal to promote this in the culture for societal control. So hallucinogenics can be used for, that's the Huxley's thing. That's what they were proposing, was that you could use it for societal control, basically. So whether or not you actually interact with any beings or anything else, that's just part of selling the deal to get you to do it because of the desirable effects that it would have on you. It's part of an agenda. Again, it's another conspiracy, right? It's like there's an agenda behind it. There's a reason for it. Just like Yuval says, drugs and computer games. What do we do with the men who are aggressive, who want to work and don't have a job and have UBI? Well, we give them drugs, dope them up, give them weed, and play freaking World of Warcraft, computer games. That's what we do with them. So there's all these agendas you guys have no idea about that comes behind a lot of these popular internet personalities and people that you see that you think are just like average random people that start a YouTube channel or something or a podcast. Most of them are not. Most of them are quasi in and involved with. Look at the Tates, for example, right? You say, Andrew's dad was CIA. If you know that, okay, good. Now you've got both your shoes on. You're ready to get started here to understand that societal control is managed through people. It's managed through actors like Hawking and people on behalf of the system for different objectives. One could be diffusal of the youth, right? Another one could be the letter after P group, the Q guys who are like blown out of their mind, right? They just took them, they did counterintelligence and they took them into outer space. They just blew their minds out. The Q guys, they just blew them, guys like that freak guy, they just blew their minds out their ears. They're like, this guy's coming back. JFK is coming back and he's alive. And they just get into all this stupid shit. Some of them get into aliens and shit, right? All these people that are selling you all this stuff, they're just like scrambling you, confusing you, diffusing you so you don't do anything, basically, right? And drugs can be used for that too. Drugs can be used as an agenda piece for diffusal, for scramble, for, all these different things, right? So they're very useful, like drugging a country, for example. If you say, we're going to make marijuana legal, we're going to make prawn legal, well, what's that going to do to everybody there? They're going to get high, they're going to chill out, they're going to relax, you're going to diffuse them down, right? Now, there may be a problem if there's a war, because then you need them to get up again. So you have to have different programming, mind architecture ready for the people, despite what you do with them. So if you want them to chill, you're going to give them your weed. If you want them to relax, you give them weed. You want them agreeable, give them acid. Promote this with your agents on the internet, right? Get them to talk up hallucinogens, get them to talk up weed, get them to smoke weed on air, right? And promote that to the top of the engine so people see, they're like, oh man, that's cool. I got a DMT. I got to try that, right? I got to do this. It has, a lot of times, these strategies have an outcome. They're trying to achieve something through promoting the use of these different things on the people. Diffusal with dope, for example, doping people out. Diffusal, right? You dope them out, you're diffusing them down. They're going to just get high and, chill and, like the hippie guys, right? Like, oh, don't worry, man. New age stuff. It's all energy. We're all energy. So the biggest takeaway that I'm trying to get across to you guys here, some of you don't want it. I can see. That's up to you. It's up to you what you want to think. Your choice. But what I'm trying to convey is that even religions and drugs, culture, all these things, they all have a purpose or a serving control structure about them that can be distributed to people to achieve governing objectives. Okay, so all religions, instead of being this existential, magical spirit thing, okay, or a god of chance, atheism, Big Bang, Hawking knows everything. I watched the Big Bang Theory TV series. Instead of understanding them just from the standpoint of just independent people's beliefs, we have to start to understand that Gaia worship, Earth worship, atheism, all of the above, the drug culture, all of the above, there are objectives that these patterns of thinking can be utilized for. Satanism for war. You need Satanism for war. You have to have it. You can't fight a war without adversarialism. You cannot fight a war without adversarialism. Shaving the head, boot camp, everything. You have to have these different tools in your toolkit in order to steer generations where you want them to go, in the direction that you want them to go. So that's the overarching message that I'm trying to get across here. So I'm trying to get across that atheism has been used and is being used, eventually will merge into, from New Age atheism, Scientism, will merge into Earth worship and Gaia worship, even more in the next few decades than it has been, way more, right? So what I'm trying to convey is that most religions have a reason for them, for one reason or another. For Christianity, maybe it was because at that time they would have wanted, the ruling, like why Constantine would have made it the official religion, for example, with the Flavians in Rome, probably would have been because they wanted peace. They wanted people to stop being adversarial to each other. They didn't have surveillance like we have now with social media and cameras and phone surveillance and all that stuff, right? They didn't have that. So they would, institute the concept of a man watching in the clouds, this kind of thing. A God that sees all, this whole thing, life review, all these different concepts, karma, everything like that. To, again, it's like a mindset you can give to average people that will, be fruitful and multiply. It's a mindset you can give them for your system to flourish in the way you want it to. And just make sure you write in that, obey your government, always listen to your government, listen to the Romans, basically listen to the Roman elite, which eventually did fold anyway, right? It didn't last forever, but so different religions having different purposes, okay? And atheism being one of them, as maybe a subsection of, if you want to say atheism is anything, it's probably like a subsection of Judaism. There's also, too, if you look at like the Roman time period, too, this book goes into Vespasian a bit and Titus. And Vespasian, as the emperor during this time, was revered as a god. So you wouldn't, if the Roman guards asked you if you accepted Vespasian as a god, you would have to say, yes, that I accept the Roman emperor as God or as a god. If you didn't, if you were like, no, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in I don't think Vespasian's God. I think he's just some guy who happened to be born in the right family. oh boy, you would probably get jail time, thrown in jail. Atheism is not something that's always been allowed, okay, either in different regimes. In some regimes, if you denounced the emperor's divinity, you would get in big shit. You might get thrown in jail, you might get crucified, you might get stoned, right? These things would happen. So atheism is not something that has always been allowed in systems. In the Roman system, if you denounced Caesar's divinity, you didn't see him as like a godlike figure, and you were vocal about it, oh shit, that would not be allowed. So atheism is not something that's always been, allowed to be. And like here, for example, you have a lot of the natives with their shamanistic traditions and their chiefs and stuff like that. If you were an atheist to them and you didn't believe in spirits or anything, maybe they would be like, okay, but some of the chiefs would be like, exile, get out. I don't want you in my group, because that atheistic type of mindset, I don't want it around my other, people here. They're all about the spirits. And again, this is like a kind of like a godliness of different forces, of wind and the moon and earth and all these things, all the different spiritual aspects of shamanism and everything they believed. So atheism is not something that has always been allowed, okay, or favorable for people. There are times when that would get you killed. So just so you know, or even like from the Crusades and the Christian perspective too, there were groups that were like more atheistic, and sometimes, the higher ups of Christianity, like the Crusades and stuff, if you didn't, say what they wanted you to say at the right time, man, you're like, oh, I just don't believe in anything. I'm whatever. They'd be like, what? They'd give you, they'd be adversarial to you. They'd be satanic to you. Even though they're Christians, they'd be adversarial to you. And they'd be like, what'd you say? You don't believe in, Jesus or something? And who knows? They might confine you or arrest you or something. So you have to understand, in its current iteration, there have been atheism has been there, but it hasn't always been accepted. It hasn't always been desirable. It's only, in about the last 150, 170 years, let's say, that atheism has really, become mainstream, right? NASA and all the other stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay, let's see. Oh, book collection video, maybe later. We'll see. Yeah, Spitfire says smoke weed every day. That's right. There you go. You got it. Absolutely. What else did you dude say? Okay, so, well, I'm just saying prawn because we're on YouTube. That's why, Tool. That's all. Yeah. Yeah, without YouTube getting mad or something. Religion's a little tricky. Atheism's a little tricky, but yeah, that's just what I have. But yeah, if you look at Peterson, Kevbo mentioned Peterson. I do appreciate a lot of like his Bible breakdowns and stuff that he's done, though. I think a lot of that's really good. I would just caution people on his shadow integration stuff. I think this is very, to a degree, you kind of have to go for it. If you want to be successful, you got to go after it. That's true. But, again, I wouldn't want you guys to get into the slanted territory or into the, the dark kind of like aspects of growth like you have in some sections of like Kabbalah and Judaism, where they have like these different, patterns of growth or ways of growth. Like you can develop on the good side and you can develop on the bad side and, the shadow side, let's say. That's slippery slope. Just be very careful with any of that kind of stuff is what I would say. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Tool Under wants to have a go at Christianity a little bit. It sounds like, well, okay. So it depends how you feel about the Romans and everything and what they did with it. But the way I look at it is pretty simple. If you want to look at it as there's good and evil, okay, and there's simple good, and good is good, and there's simple evil, and evil is evil. Now, kind of the Judaism way to look at this is that, what about the greater good? So they kind of argument. It's almost like a religion based on argumentation, almost, right? But so if the way I'll give you this, don't worry about Christianity. Let's go with like maybe some Egypt, Ra worship or something. I don't know, a different one, right? It's up to you. Horus or something, like a worship of the sun, and good is good and bad is bad. Like, if you can agree that good behavior is good, and it's good to be nice, and good to be a good person, good to be peaceful, and good to be all these things, and that's good, and good is good. Good is good, okay? And evil is evil, right? And that's really, and it's black and white like that. Good is good, and evil is evil. It's good to be good, and it's evil to be evil, right? To deceive, and to be deceptive, and to lie, and to all this stuff, that's evil, right? Now, the way I view Judaism is like it sort of takes a stance of like a greater good approach, or it basically says, instead of a simple good is good and evil is evil, it kind of works in like, what if you do something evil in the micro to do something good in the macro? So, if you want to make an omelet, you have to break eggs, or you may have to do something evil in the minor to affect something macro that's good. So the way I think of like Judaism and kind of this Kabbalah, different types of development, where they want to argue everything. They want to say like, no, I reject, or like if you go with the E. Michael Jones approach, which is sort of like the understanding of logos, or of pure spirit, or of pure goodness, or pure life essence, whether that's for you Jesus or God or Horus or whatever you want to do, maybe one of the Greek gods, Thor or Zeus or somebody, I don't know, whatever you want to look at, right? If you view good as good and evil as evil, and you try to do good all the time, I think that's good. In terms of like Christian values, when I say Christian values, that's kind of what I mean. Like, if you're just a good person, you're good to people, and you're good to everybody, that's good. Now, you don't want to be a pushover either. You have to be a little adversarial to stand up for yourself to a degree also, right? But if we can just agree that good behavior is simply good and evil behavior is simply evil, then that's like, to me, that's like the essence of a Christian mindset. The essence of logos is like, you just simply agree that it's good to be a good person, and to be benefiting society, and to help others, and to use that kind of light is good. And it's evil to be evil, and hurting others, and lying, deceiving, harming others is bad. Can we just agree on that? I think this is the fundamental type of question that separates Christianity from Judaism, with atheism as a subsection of Judaism. Because really, modern atheism is a creation of Judaism. Communism is also a creation of Judaism. So in terms of this binary here of accepting good is good and evil is evil, I think that's the crux of the disagreement, really. I think the Christian, Catholic, peace-loving mindset is more simplified in that it wants to say that good is good and bad is bad, and that's it. And try not to do anything bad, not for a greater good. It's Jesus would say maybe it's a slippery slope, or you do one bad act and then it just goes into another, to another, to another. So the way I view this is the Christian logos, or the simple essence of light, or on or off, the binary of 1 or 0, right? Of light and darkness, okay? Good and bad is like a simple binary. And I think the crux of the disagreement between really people that are more like Islamic, or Muslim or Christian, I feel like they have kind of like an acceptance of good being good and evil being evil, and it being that simple, right? Like a moral acceptance of simply good is good and simply bad is bad. But I feel like with Judaism, especially with Kabbalah and all that other stuff that's kind of nested and encrypted within it, it's like hidden within it, right? I feel like it has this sentiment about it that it rejects the basic tenet that good is good and bad is bad. And it brings in this argumentation of something can be good but still be bad, but maybe something can be bad that you do, a white lie, but then it causes good. And then it just kind of, it gets into like it just expands upon that. I think that's the fundamental difference. So I think E. Michael Jones has it right. I think that's the fundamental difference between the two types of people with respect to Christianity or Judaism, and atheism as a subsection of Judaism because it was created by them, basically. So, and is still propagated by them pretty much, right? So that's what I'll give you as far as that goes. I think that's the best way that I can describe the key disagreement between the two. Okay, that good is good and bad is bad. Now, as far as creation goes and how you want to look at creation, that's up to you. Whether there's an architect or there isn't, that's up to you. But that's what I'll give you as far as that goes. Yeah. So let's see. Religion is really just a way for us to understand where we are, a belief about where we are, because a lot of life is a mystery to us. We don't know exactly where we came from. And I think the higher-ups too, I don't think they know either a lot of times. They may have their own history, which they've encrypted and kept back from most people, which is different from, like, the mystery schools may have their own answers to those and may have a pretty good idea, a better idea than they give to open society or to the masses. They probably do have sacred knowledge that they've kept back. I'm sure Judaism and Kabbalah and everything, I'm sure they have, a lot of the rabbis and stuff, they have encrypted information that they're not going to be giving to the masses, to the average people. They'll give you atheism, but they're going to have other stuff that I'm sure they're not going to give to you. They're going to gatekeep that, and they're going to encrypt that for themselves. So I'm sure they know more about our reality, but there's probably things to them that's also a mystery to them as well too. I'm sure they don't know everything. Although I think they do know that God exists. I think they know that. All right, let's see. What else did you guys say here? And then we'll wrap soon because we're over 2 hours. So on this stream on atheism, Nietzscheism, Marxism, and mind flaying, mind weapons. Yeah, okay. Let's see what else. What else you guys say here? Oat milk. Where can I sign up to be a stage character? I'm not going to tell you. I don't want to fool people and take their money. You're Jewish, Oat milk. I can tell you're Jewish. You see? That's the difference, right? That's what it is. It's that, obviously, Oat milk, you're not Christian in terms of your values. Or maybe you're just kidding, right? That's what it is. But if you're kind of, again, if you accept logos, that good is good and bad is bad, and you're going to aim to try to go to the good. If you accept that concept, then you're not going to do stuff like that. Obviously, all that stuff is a creation of those who don't agree that that's the case. Yeah. So okay, let's see. Kevbo says it's all about authority. There are systems of authority we've created in this realm, but there's a system of authority in the spiritual realm too. Oh, I love it. And then Kevbo says Satan's goal is to usurp that authority. Yeah, I see what you mean. You mean as as a character in Christianity, not as in adversarialism. I understand what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. The Protoss says, Trev, trust me, God is real. I know. I am 100% certain, Protoss, that we exist in a created realm. I'm 100% certain. So if anybody wants to try to convince me otherwise, you're not going to. I'll tell you right now, you're not going to be able to, because I've gone through this a lot. I am absolutely certain that we are in a created system, 100%, in my mind anyway, that was created by some kind of intellect, for sure. Yeah, okay, let's see. What's up, DV? How you doing, man? DV likes weed. Yeah, that's good. That's fine, as long as you don't do it too much, it doesn't wreck your life. Infamous said, I already talked about how well we'll all be linked. The elite and Highland know what we think. Well, if Elon gets his Neuralink shit, then maybe they'll have that. If the people give it to him. The people so far seem to give them whatever they want. So, maybe that's where things are going. Maybe there'll be a split. And you'll have people that have decided they're going to remain in the image of God, and the people that reject the logos are going to take the chip. Maybe that's what will happen. Maybe it's as simple as that dichotomy. Maybe it's that the good is good, logos, we're going to live the way we're going to live. We don't need your chip. and the people were like, oh, that's cool, fancy shit, and 24/7 prawn fed directly into our brains. That's what we want, or something. And they take the chip. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it could be the case. What's up, Harold? How you doing, man? Okay, let's see. Yeah, Blitz says, am I part of the letter after P group operation? No, I'm not. I got striked for it once because somebody asked me, and I did a video with it in the title, and they striked me for it when I said in the thing that it's an op. Yeah, this is an op, but so many things are ops. That's the thing people don't realize. Like, almost everything is an op. Everything in the news is pretty much an op in some way. It's almost never just factually, what happened. It's always slanted in some way to make you. It's always taking into consideration how the public will interpret the information and how it will inform their behavior. So the letter after P group was simply about just diffusing the people, scrambling them, giving them crap. It was an advanced op that just potted and scrambled the people so they can't make heads or tails of anything. And a lot of that's just to get you off balance. You just don't know like what's happening. I had a guy, I was at work and I was doing a service for him on his computer, and he started telling me about Hillary being in jail and stuff, and I was like, oh my God, he's a Q-tard. And I didn't say anything. I was like, oh my God. He starts telling me JFK is going to come back from the dead and shit. And I didn't have the heart to tell him. I was like, oh man, that's an op, right? No, I didn't say anything, right? I just let him go off and tell me about how Hillary was in jail or something. And I was like, oh. Oh, the people, there's no hope. Maybe Yuval's right. There's no hope for some of these people. But you know what, though? The deal is, though, dude, is if here's the simple way to go with the letter after P stuff. If you keep telling people what they want to hear, they'll find a way to believe it. And that's what they did. They just kept making stuff up and telling people what they wanted to hear. And people like that guy, I helped him. I just got off the phone with him because I was like, oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. I just pretended like it. I was at work, so I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to get in an argument. He might be mad at me or something. So I said like, oh, yeah, really? She's arrested. Oh, okay. All right, cool. Okay, man, all right, let me go get started on this. I'll talk to you after. Okay, the service is done. He proceeds to tell me all this stuff about the stuff's happening. I'm just like, okay, man. All right, cool. Yeah, that sounds good. Great. But yeah, see, this is where they can really do a number on people, and people want to believe that there's these white hats or these good people, and there are some good people out there, and the good people do what they can, but yeah, man, it's just taking advantage of what people wanted to hear, and just, it's like a lot of the Orange Man worship stuff. A lot of these guys, you want to talk worship, there's guys who are like on BitChute, you hear some of them, X22 and people like this. These guys are like engaged in worship over the Orange Man, over Trump. They're worshiping him like he's some kind of god. That's what it is. Like fucking, he's got some kind of corona or something, behind him. He's like looking up, and there's like the sun shining behind him and stuff, and he's like a Christ figure for some of these tards, man. But what can you say? Again, it's our own subjective reality that we create in our minds. That's true for us. Like, it's real for us, right? Like, for him, he's going to be disappointed, and he's going to be quite upset when he finds out that Hillary's not in prison. But in his inner world, in his inner mind, these kind of ideas are so appealing to him for justice and all these things, that Captain America is defeating Hydra, G.I. Joe's beating Cobra. These concepts are so attractive to the mind that the person will bypass their better common sense, and they will believe it because they want to. And again, and then they'll engage in worship over Trump as he's some kind of Christ-like figure. That's what's happening, right? That's what worship is, right? And like a lot of you guys with online and stuff, you have your favorite people. And don't do this with me either. None of you guys who have been my subscribers for 15 years or something, don't deify me either. I'm just a normal guy just like you guys. But don't deify the cult of Peterson or Rogan or Alex Jones or any of these people or Trump or Biden. Don't deify these people. They're not your gods. They're just people like you, right? You see what I'm saying? So don't do that. Don't engage in this kind of worship where you really always question everything and be careful what you allow into your mind. Be careful what you accept and you believe. Don't let them take advantage of your emotions and tell you something that that you take just because it sounds so good. It has such a sweetness to it that you want to believe it. So you accept it as something that's really happening. Oh, really? The G.I. Joe's getting Cobra. G.I. Joe's got Cobra. Trump is Duke. He's got the blonde hair. He's coming in. He's gonna get Cobra Commander. You see, like this is the kind of shit I'm talking about. Do not engage in this type of worship, okay, of these people. All right, that's what I'm saying. So that's my take on it. Was Operation Trust Blitz. That's what they did. It was just a giant pot, but they look how effective they are at it though, because then they can point to it, and anybody who comes up with interesting ideas, they can point to it and be like, oh, that person's a Q-tar. That person's I'll do the accent right. That person's one of them Q-tars. He thinks that JFK's coming back from the dead and he's going to arrest everybody. Right? It's like, that's what it is. So it's really effective. They give you your fool. They give you your, they give you everybody. They give you your idiot. They give you your bearded lady. They give you your strong man. They give you your guy that can eat a lot, and they turn it into a circus. And that's what the Letter After P group was here to do. They give you your freaks, and they turn it into a circus. And then you got guys like Alan Watt that are sitting there like all serious, and it's like turn it into a circus. Yeah. Okay. So that's as easy as it is. And I guess for the masses, they just lap it up, dude. They just buy it. They don't know any better. So they're too. Yeah, James Stewart says he's absolutely lost it. Joshua Thompson says, wait, Trump wasn't the second coming? Yeah, exactly. See, that's... He's Jesus. Oh my God. He shook my hand, dudes. Oh, guys. What can you do, man? It happens. It happens. But you see this in even the alien shit, too. Like, you got some of these people the alien guys, too, right? They're like, they get all into this stuff, right? Star Child Skull and Stephen Greer and all these people. Oh, man, we're going to a retreat. We're going to watch some fireworks, and we're going to say they're UFOs or something. All right. Yeah. Okay, let's see. What else? Yeah, see, they got you, Blitz, right? Because you said, am I part of the Letter After P operation? So you know that's what it is. But, yeah, that's funny. Okay, let's see. What else did you do say? We'll wrap soon because, yeah, my voice is starting to go, dude. So we'll wrap up soon. What did you say there, DV? Phil Opistic? What is this? Let me Google this word you just typed in. Okay. Cool. Yeah, Marco asked what I predict for the future. Well, I think everything will be good. I think everything will be great. But, it's for Marco, like, it's a lot of what we do ourselves, right? Like, it's like last week's video we did, last week's stream. It was kind of like more hard knocks type of topic about working overtime, building success, getting success for yourself, and what you can do. So, yeah, whatever's going on with the big picture, I don't want you guys to be demoralized to the point where you think like there's no way forward or there's no way to progress or to advance yourself. Yeah, there still is. Definitely you can. You can use frugality. You can use hard work. And, don't get down on yourselves. Like some people would look at maybe their own IQ and think, oh, maybe I'm not smart enough or something. I wouldn't worry too much about your own personal IQ or anything like that. There's always ways to succeed. There's always ways to win in the game. You can, like I put in the last week's stream, you can work overtime. You can be very frugal. You can save money. You can invest. You can diversify. There's still all kinds of ways to win. Now, in the next 5 or 10 years, it might become more difficult, or it might take you longer to achieve the same results as it would have taken before a few years ago. But yeah, you can still achieve, you can still do very well, and nobody can really stop you from working extra if you decide to do that. If you decide to work 5 days at your regular job and then you work weekends somewhere else, you get a second job on the weekends, or work nights and really increase your hours, regardless of how smart you are or you aren't, you can still succeed, but you do have to have confidence. You do have to believe in yourself. You can't let atheism, demoralization, mind weapons get you down. You have to have confidence and take action and work hard and maybe take some small risks, calculated risks, and try to succeed, right? So that's part of what I want to say here, and just be very weary of the way you think, the things you accept to be true, and how that can impact your behavior. Not to let a victim mindset take hold to where you feel like you can't, because, Yuval or somebody says something about what's over and this and that, whatever, that you just have to cut to that and just say, oh, well, I guess communism's here, so I can't save any money, or I can't work overtime, or I can't get promoted. Well, maybe you can't get promoted at your current job, but maybe there's other jobs you could apply for that would be better. Maybe you could start a small business. Maybe you could get a second job. Maybe you could work overtime. I don't want you guys to have a defeated attitude with respect to the changes that are happening in the world and are going to be happening. There's lots of ways you can still succeed and win the game, even if it takes a little bit longer than before, or it's a little bit harder than before. And don't compare yourselves to others based on their lot in life. A lot of them may have had, sometimes people just get lucky. There's people that I've seen that are like, not that impressive, and sometimes they get hired for a good job, like a government job or something, and they get paid, really good money, but they're not even intelligent or anything. They just happen to apply at the right time and happen to be there, and maybe they put on a good interview, so they got hired. So I don't want you guys to have a negative mindset here, and a victim and a nihilistic mindset here, that you're either unimportant, that you don't matter, that you aren't something great by yourself. You are. You're something great. You can do great things. All of us has the power within ourselves to achieve, to work really hard, to do well in our lives. And just because things are happening out there in the world and are going to be happening in the next while, it doesn't mean that you can't still do great yourself and grow and build and find solutions and build your own little communities and become more self-reliant. Do all these things that increase your own independence, so you're less dependent on the system as a whole. If it gets worse. Oh, Blitz. Yeah, Einstein was totally a fraud. So Einstein was not what they sell him as. Einstein is basically, and you're right that he's kind of part of this too. So Einstein, and you can read there's books on this. One of them I think is called The Terror of Einstein. I think it was a Bjerknes or somebody. Anyway, there's some talks from them on it. But basically Einstein was a stage character. He wasn't very intelligent. He might have been autistic. And I don't think he could tie his shoes. I think did he marry? I have to look at who he married. He may have married his cousin, but he was cousin or somebody related to him. I have to look it up. I can't do it off the top of my head because you caught me off guard without preparation. But basically, the gist of it is, yes, Einstein is a fraud. He's not very intelligent. He's not gifted. He wasn't anything special. And he almost became the prime minister of Israel. They offered him to be the prime minister of Israel because he was basically like part of the Jewish side of things and Jewish propagandist, I'd say. So the stuff that he did, relativity and all this other junk, which I would classify as what's known as counterintelligence. So I have to explain to you, because you don't know what intelligence. Okay, so there's different types of intelligence. One type is just listening and gaining information. So one type of intelligence is listening and acquiring information. Another type of intelligence is where you put out information. So, for example, aliens, I would say, are counterintelligence. They're putting out something to basically scramble. So the letter after P group was counterintelligence. It was putting something out to scramble the people that were followers of it. So it just basically diffused them, it confused them, and it demoralized them eventually, right? When the things that they were spouting didn't come true. That's a form of counterintelligence. Einstein, I would say, was a counterintelligence person. So he was doing, related to heliocentrism, he was doing relativity, E equals mc squared. He was Marxist, so he hated Germans. He hated the Aryans, and he is pretty much like a stage character that they hold in reverence as part of the Jewish infrastructure. So he is, and like some of this goes into, I think the conversation I had a little while ago went into Einstein because of some of Spielberg's work, right? So Spielberg is basically like a propagandist for the Jays through his movies, right? And what are the different movies he did? Back to the Future, which is like, it's sort of like, sci-fi, science fiction, fantasy for time travel and all this stuff. All of these science fiction things can be useful for counterintelligence because what they can do is, like people coming back, well, look at the letter after P group, the counterintelligence there, where it's run to, part of the idea of people coming back from the dead or time travelers and this crazy shit, right? Like this stuff that's just so out there. A lot of this is counter to scramble and confuse people. So counterintelligence has a use for it. It's to confuse, to scramble, to nullify, to defuse. So some of the drug culture could be part of counterintelligence as well. Because its purpose can be to mislead you, to misguide you, right? To confuse you so you don't know what's happening. And then another objective is achieved while you're busy in la-la land. So it takes you into la-la land. So basically I would say to you that Einstein was a counterintelligence person. He was basically responsible for scrambling, and I'd say his target was the Goyim. Scrambling the Goy, basically, is what he was doing. So relativity, instead of hard science, you're trying to say that everything is relative, so you can't say anything about anything. And I view this as scrambling. He also used arithmetic, so he would use the chalkboard and Greek and advanced math. But as far as his math skills go, they might have been garbage. They might have been really, really bad. But you're just using it to confuse and to scramble. So the difference is a difference of again, kind of like the good is good and bad is bad thing, right? Where you have logos and you just say that good behavior is good and a person is good or a person is bad. He would definitely be on the bad side. His intentions were not to benefit humanity at all. His intentions were to scramble and counter, co-intel, yeah. So that's maybe we could do a presentation just on that, Blitz, that he was a fraud. My findings are that he was a fraud. Yeah. And I think during his time, basically all of the real mathematicians and scientists like Tesla would have known that he was a fraud. Like, I think Tesla, I'm trying to remember if I heard some quotes from Tesla referring to him as like, if he knew about him and what he thought about him. But he's part of the infrastructure, and he was also plagiarizing a lot of people's work and taking credit for it. But because of the way the media works, he would get credit for what everybody else was doing. So he could be like a shell person where he would take all this stuff with his handlers and his group that was in and around him, similar to Hawking in some ways, because he was probably himself not intelligent at all. And he could take that all and he could bring it into his work. So he could steal from all of them, bring it into his work. And then he could take credit for him. And the papers and the news and the media and your Spielbergs and people like this would make him a star. So they created another demigod out of him. So they basically created a myth-type character out of Einstein. So they've created a myth of this uber mensch, okay? Uber mensch, this magic Superman, who is he's just better than everybody. He's just better than you, Goy. He's just better than you, everybody. he's just smarter than you. You don't understand it. You know, he's probably like he's probably like autistic, just like making shit up. And people were like, I don't get that. Oh yeah, you're just not smart enough to get it, right? Because he's like all autistic, and he's like he's like writing all this shit that's all scrambled and stuff. And the other scientists were probably looking at him like, that's that's wrong. You can see why the Germans would hate him, right? Because the Germans would be like, they would they probably went crazy on him because they're like, you're so stupid. Like, you're so stupid. What are you trying to do? This doesn't make any sense. And he's like, well, the Jewish newspapers in New York will understand me. I'm going to go to the States and they'll understand me there. But you see, it requires kind of an understanding of the bigger system, not just of him by himself, but the whole infrastructure in and around him, which connects to greater Judaism, that you're probably going to be missing, so you won't get it. But he by himself was not, again, just like Hawking, he's not like a normal person like you or me or anybody could just do that. He's intelligence. He's connected with intelligence for different intelligence networks, and they're going to be promoting him and making a star out of him. So he's like your mathematics Jesus, right? He's your Jewish Jesus, right? That's what he is. So, even up until now, they'll make movies like they're doing the Oppenheimer movie, for example, right? So you have all this stuff. You get into the Welleses with, atom bombs and everything else. So, so that's basically what it is. So there's a whole infrastructure behind him that builds a character like that. It's not just one guy that just gets around and writes some things on a board and that's it. There's a whole infrastructure behind a man like that, which the original man, probably not much to write home about. It's like Hawking, right? Like, what could he really do? Come on, man. Like, get real. That Hawking was not going to tell you how the universe began. Just life is, if you have any kind of disability at all, life is tough. If you're in that state, it's difficult to produce anything, man. Obviously, his team around him was producing all this stuff. Einstein was the same. And they would threaten people around him. They would shut them up. They would tell them to shut up. They get mad at them, right? So he would get credit in the papers for everything, basically. He would get credit for everything, is pretty much what it is. So to say he's a fraud is like, it's probably better to say he's a stage character. He's a myth. He's a demigod. He's a priest of Scientism, is what he is. He's a new modern Jewish Jesus, or character, John the Baptist, or character, let's say. Maybe he's not the Messiah, but he's like a scientific Messiah, let's say. So you create a thing about him. Is there anybody right now that they're doing that with? Neil deGrasse Tyson has a bit of that vibe, but not much. Bill Nye the Science Guy has a little bit of that vibe, but not much, just a little. Now they don't have the same aura about them as like an Einstein, right? Where they would go around and have their shows and go on podcasts and right-think people. So if Joe Rogan says the moon landings were fake, Neil deGrasse Tyson will come on, and next thing you know, he'll be saying that, oh, this is how wrong I knew I was. How wrong did you know you were? Oh, I knew I was this. I was this wrong, Spotify. I was this wrong. Cha-ching. I was this wrong. Cha-ching. So, these are different type of people that, even modern day, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, or Carl Sagan, or people like this, you can semi-deify these people in the future. So Einstein is basically a person like maybe a Neil deGrasse Tyson, or maybe dumber. Maybe Neil's smarter than Einstein. Probably. He probably is. Most likely. Like he would test better on your test probably than Einstein. Neil deGrasse Tyson or Carl Sagan. They're probably smarter. Like take someone like Dawkins. Dawkins is probably higher IQ than Einstein. In fact, I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's higher IQ. So, but you can deify these people through control of media and control of UNESCO, the education system. Freud is another one. Freud is another deified, member of the tribe, right, of Judaism. Freud is another, a stage character that the psychoanalysts and Jung and the others. Now, they did find out some good stuff, though, especially going back to someone's childhood. And then his work expanded with Bernays after that, with his family, with Bernays, for not just, psychoanalysis, but then societal influence after with Bernays. So yeah, so that's what it is. We'll have to do a whole DV. We could do proof of that. We'll have to do a whole stream on it though, because it's one that if you really want me to, I'll buy some of the books. We'll go through the details, and we could go in depth on it if you really want to. But basically, the gist of it is, he's a stage character just like Hawking, and he's a myth. He's a he's a wise man. Okay, does that ring? Does that make sense to you that he's a wise man? Right? He's a character, like a lot of them are. And even someone like a Spielberg, for example, is probably more important than Einstein. Einstein's not that important. Like, he's just a character. At least with Kubrick or Spielberg or one of these guys, one of these Jays, at least they produce some awesome stuff. I'm trying to think of what Einstein actually produced that was of any use. I can't really think of much, So, I like Spielberg and Kubrick, for example. The movies are amazing. I love Jurassic Park. I love some of Spielberg's movies. So, great stuff, absolutely. So I think more highly of them than someone like an Einstein. Definitely. Or even Dawkins or Neil deGrasse Tyson or Carl Sagan. I think they're all smarter than Einstein. Or Hawking. I think they're all smarter than Hawking. I think they're all smarter than Einstein. Yeah. I'll just like that picture where he's always sticking his tongue out at you. Yeah. We could do a whole one on it. Maybe we need to go through it more. Maybe we will. So who wrote the books? Lactose Free. Well, a lot of those ones are. I mean, obviously, there's lots of scientists that are Jewish. There's lots of scientists that are not. Turing, for example, with computers and stuff. I don't think Turing was Jewish. I think he was a Goy. Pretty sure. Was he English or I'm not sure. I have to look up Turing, but he's very important. Turing is kind of like the creator of computers, sorta. He created the first kind of concepts of it, himself. Yeah, I'm a fan of Ye. I really like Ye's music. Really good. I feel really sorry for him that they really shut him down big time. Cost him a couple $1 billion. That really sucks, man. I feel really bad for him that they did that to him. It's really awful. But what can you do, man? It's very powerful. A lot of power. So yeah, yes, he was a supremacist. Yes, he was, and not that intelligent from what I can gather at all. I'll check it. I could check it, Blitz, and see. Are you sure it's not propaganda? I like to see fair assessments, not propaganda. So yeah, but we're almost at 3 hours, dude. So that's a long stream. I gotta wrap soon. So that's what I got for you guys. For a 3-hour stream on atheism. So we went into some great topics tonight. We did atheism. We did a little bit continued for Christianity. We went into Scientism. We went into Judaism a little bit, just a little bit. But we kind of have to understand, to at least go through it, to understand the influence that it has had on modern scientism. And the influence that it's had on modern scientism is massive, absolutely massive. So, so that's it for this stream, guys. Thank you for joining, everybody. Hope you liked it. If anyone's just joining now, you can go back and watch some of the earlier stuff. It's up to you, Burnt Mountain, if you like discussion on atheism and all this. A lot of details. Maybe, sometimes I go over people's heads too far, so they don't, I'm way over your head, right? So you don't understand all the different aspects involved with how these things are created. Religions are not just something that pop up. They have to have acceptance or backing somewhere. Even Christianity, Constantine had to say, we're going to go with this, right? It all has to be approved, right, at some point. So that's what it is. There you go. That's a good mention of Red Ice's video on Einstein. Yeah, that's great. Really good. I fear if I did it on YouTube, it would get deleted or censored. That's what I fear. So maybe we could do it, maybe not. I don't know. I'll think about it. I'll think about it. I'll think about it, Blitz. I'll think about it. Yeah, Blitz, I'll point you towards Red Ice's work on Einstein. Okay, so go to BitChute.com. type in red ice, Einstein. I think that they did one with Bjerknes and some of the others. But there's many people that have kind of gone into this a lot. I'll just say he wasn't a true genius. He's like a stage character, just like Hawking. They're not real, geniuses. Let's say they're characters. Yeah, go do it. You do it. You do it. I don't know if I'm going to do. You do it yourself, Blitz. Don't be lazy. You go do it. You go watch their video on it. Do it yourself. I might do it on YouTube, but I have to think about whether or not it's going to get cleaned or censored or something. But seriously, you're asking questions, so you go on BitChute, type in what I just said, and you do your research yourself, okay? Don't get me to present everything to you. You go do it yourself, too. I can't do it all for you. You got to go do it. All right, dudes, that's 3 hours. So I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. Some more regular, basic stuff and some more advanced stuff mixed in as well. All right, dudes. Thank you all for watching. Have yourselves a good night. Thanks for the support. And I'll have a new video for you guys pretty soon. Probably a new Walking Dead video within a week or two as we are getting closer. Maybe we'll do some more religious videos. Maybe we could do one on Satanism a little bit. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. That's it for this one. See you guys again. Yeah, it's a little bit too spicy for YouTube. That's right. Exactly. No, Blitz. You go on BitChute yourself and listen to Red Ice's work on Einstein and others. You can do it yourself. You don't need me to handhold you. I'm not hand-holding you. You go do it yourself, okay? You're an adult. You can learn too. You can research too. You go do it yourself, all right? Don't ask me to do it because I may or may not have time. And if I can't post on YouTube, I probably won't do it. So for this one, see you guys again soon for another.